The stage was set with Jiang Ping standing up front, and over 200 pairs of eyes fixated on him below. Under normal circumstances, this shouldn't have been any pressure. But the problem was, not a single person in this crowd knew the Jiang Ping they had waited alongside for 3 years, day in and day out, was no longer the same person. The soul currently inhabiting this body had only been here for a few months, and it was from a place called Blue Star. Before the awakening ceremony, he had scoured through every ounce of available information. This world had only been experiencing spiritual energy revival for less than 100 years, and humans maintained order through a variety of superpowers, categorized into major systems like object control, elemental manipulation, support, beast taming, beast transformation, and over a dozen others. Each type further broke down into 30 or so specific traits that were ranked from F to S across 7 tiers. For an ordinary person, awakening to a D-rank ability was already respectable enough. A C was considered decent, and AB highly commendable. Awakened to an A-level ability? In an average city, you'd be untouchable. The original owner of this body had a father, Jiang Lei, the only A-level lightning element wielder in Huaihai City. So, Jiang Ping could easily discern the murmurs coming from the crowd below. A tiger's cub is no dog, they whispered, a phrase meaning a talented father would surely have equally talented offspring. Expectations were high. The moment Jiang Ping placed his hand on the assessment orb, twin beams of light shot straight into the sky, so blinding that everyone reflexively squinted their eyes. A voice broke through the stunned murmurs. Dual abilities. The light lingered longer than anyone else's and shone brighter than all the previous candidates combined. Shortly after, words materialized in the air. S-level wood element ability. S-level spirit sight ability. An uneasy stillness swept over the square, lasting for a few seconds. Everyone present, 18-year-olds eagerly anticipating their futures, understood exactly what S-rank meant. Ever since the revival of spiritual energy, there had been fewer than 15 confirmed S-level ability users among the entire human race. And as for dual S rankings, only 2 had ever existed. Today, in front of more than 200 witnesses, a third had just appeared. But that silence didn't last long. It wasn't awe that broke the quiet. It was disbelief, followed by ridicule. Wood element. Isn't that the second most useless ability ever? And spirit sight? Isn't that the absolute worst? The crowd erupted. The wood element was mainly used for healing and farming, but water abilities did better in healing. And as for offensive uses, wood might as well not exist. Meanwhile, spirit sight had a similarly dismal record in all documented history, with its sole confirmed feature being perfect photographic memory. Helpful for memorizing books? Sure. In combat. Useless. Dual S-level abilities that turned out to be the 2 most useless systems ever documented. The harder it had been to believe a dual S awakening, the harder the laughter came afterward. Even the teachers on stage couldn't completely suppress their headshakes. Their expressions said it all. It didn't need to be translated into words. Jiang Ping remained on stage as the glow from the beams behind him lingered, while the mocking laughter was all around him. What could he do? Even he knew, if you dug deep enough into any textbook, these 2 abilities were universally regarded as the most trash-tier combination imaginable. Swapping either ability out for even a common B-tier fire or wind element would have been far more impressive. As his mind spiraled, trying to figure out how he could salvage the situation, an unexpected sensation lit up deep within his consciousness. It wasn't an external flash of light. It was something internal, like a hidden switch inside him had been flipped. System detected. Awakening talent. Binding to Ninjustice system. ***. You've awakened the Kekkei Genkai. Would release. You've awakened the Kekkei Genkai. Sharingan. The awakening ceremony finished, and for nearly 3 seconds, the examination area fell silent. But this time, the silence wasn't confusion. It was a collective loss for words. A dual S-level awakening? Huaihai City had never seen such a rating before. Every past S rank had been something worth celebrating. A feat that never failed to make the teachers leap from their seats in excitement. A dual S typically left people in awe. But this? Wood element and spirit sight? Nobody knew what these 2 abilities truly entailed. They didn't belong to any of the standard branches of elemental powers. They weren't in the textbooks. No legends ever spoke of masters or elders who honed these powers. After a moment of silence, the supervising teacher sighed heavily, placed a hand on Jiang Ping's shoulder, and said, "Take your time processing this." "My condolences." Whispers broke out below. "Strongest loser in history," someone muttered. "Even if the talent is SS, what use is it if the actual abilities are those?" Another said. "I knew the Jiang family's luck was bound to run out eventually." Jiang Ping walked off the platform, his face wearing a calm smile, his steps firm and confident. Many onlookers assumed he had lost his mind, crushed under the weight of humiliation. But only Jiang Ping himself knew the storm raging in his head. Sharingan would release, asterisk asterisk. Nobody else in this world would even know what these words meant. Would release wasn't just about growing a forest from nothing. It was an ability capable of controlling entire battlefields, its roots choking out any enemy opposition. It was the signature move that once allowed Hashirama Senju to humiliate a nine-tailed beast in legendary fashion. And Sharingan. It was insight, illusion, replication. A single glance that could shift the tide of any battle. Combine these two, and Jiang Ping's mind summoned one overwhelming image, Susanoo riding the great Buddha. Of course, at this moment, he couldn't use any of it. When his system interface opened, it displayed spiritual energy, 100. Energy points, 100. Cultivation rank, Tier 1, beginner. The system shop offered an overwhelming array of jutsu, although the high-end techniques were way out of his reach. Anything worth going wild over, such as deep forest blooming or wood dragon jutsu, went for upward of 10,000 energy points. And right now, the only thing he could afford was one miserable D-rank jutsu, wooden wall, for 10 points. Barely accessible. The issue wasn't vision, it was resources. He could see where the ceiling was, but right now, he was barely standing on the floor. Meanwhile, the teachers on stage didn't waste a moment. Principal Wang Daochuan, a short, rotund man with just a few sparse hairs left on his shiny head, wore a dramatically different expression than everyone else. While the others felt pity or regret, he was downright gleeful. A dual S-level talent, regardless of what abilities they were linked to, meant a massive government bonus based purely on the ranking. Quietly, he instructed the teachers. To the public, we only reveal that it's a dual S awakening. No mention of the specific abilities. Let's get the funding secured first. The teachers nodded furiously in agreement. The ceremony pressed on. Two more candidates awoke to B-level abilities, both from the special branch, one controlling puppets, the other specializing in illusions. A boy and a girl, and they seemed to know each other. The crowd with calm confidence, her delicate features expressing both grace and authority. Then, to everyone's surprise, she spoke her choice with clarity. Auxiliary class. The moment the words escaped her lips, the entire venue fell into stunned silence. The teachers in charge of combat and special training frowned in utter disbelief, while murmurs swept through the crowd like wildfire. Students exchanged incredulous glances, trying to figure out if they had somehow misheard her. Auxiliary class? For someone like her? It was absurd. "Miss Yin," Director Sun Shiyu stammered, still recovering from the shock. "Forgive me, but are you certain about this choice?" "Yes," she replied without hesitation, her tone unwavering. Her gaze didn't waver, as if daring anyone to challenge her decision. The stunned reaction from the crowd didn't ruffle her in the slightest. Instead, she stood resolute, exuding a quiet but undeniable confidence. The teachers exchanged uneasy looks, clearly unsure how to respond. Meanwhile, Jiang Ping, sitting quietly among the rest, raised his brow slightly. If anyone else had said they chose the auxiliary class willingly, it might have been brushed off as foolishness or shame. But for Yin Yu, her reputation turned such a decision into something far more layered and infinitely more intriguing. Why would someone with an unparalleled S-rank sacred and water affinity willingly box themselves into the auxiliary class? Was there something the rest of them were too blind to see? Jiang Ping's gaze lingered on her momentarily before he returned his attention back to the system that had taken over his life. "System," he called mentally, flipping through the digital interface in front of him. "Explain something to me. Why do the big-ticket items in the store feel like carrots dangling from a stick? Sure, you've got Mangekyo Sharingan priced at 1,000 energy points, and even more for specific abilities. But how exactly is someone supposed to afford that? Am I supposed to just grind forever? User level insufficient for unlocking luxury purchases. The system replied in an indifferent monotone. Really comforting. Jiang Ping muttered sarcastically, resisting the urge to groan. Anything else you're willing to tell me now that I'm officially in the auxiliary class, or are you going to keep stringing me along? The system recommends incremental strengthening of existing abilities. Focus on practical resource accumulation and task-based energy collection to maximize results. Translation: deal with it and figure things out on your own. Jiang Ping sighed quietly, his eyes glancing briefly at the handful of other students gathered in the auxiliary class. Each of their expressions ranged from resignation to outright despair. It was obvious none of them had chosen this path willingly. And then, there was Yin Yu. Out of everyone, she looked the least out of place, standing there with her head held high as if this was exactly where she was meant to be. Fine, Jiang Ping muttered under his breath, more to himself than the system. Let's see how this plays out. Unbeknownst to him, the seemingly lopsided circumstances he found himself in were far from the end. This wasn't just a story about talent gaps or underdog divisions. What awaited beyond these initial struggles would challenge the very foundations of their world. They swept their gaze across the crowd, finally resting on a small group huddled in the corner, the students from the support division. I'll go to the support division, Yin Yu announced. For about 2 seconds, the plaza was dead silent. Then, chaos exploded. Sun Shiyu asked her twice, "Are you sure?" Yin Yu calmly replied that she was sure. She then gave a brief speech, saying that no ability is inherently superior or inferior, that the support division also had its value, and that she hoped to change people's perception of it. Her words weren't fiery or aggressive, but they had an oddly powerful impact. Among the onlookers, someone immediately shouted, "You're a goddess." Someone else yelled, "Marry me." And the originally despondent members of the support division lit up, their gloom completely wiped away by her words, as though all their prior humiliation had been erased. Jiang Ping stood among the crowd, watching the scene unfold. A single thought filled his mind. When he joined the support division, they called him useless. When Yin Yu joined the same division, they called her great. Same class, same door, different person walking through, and the world gave completely different labels. He didn't feel angry, just very clear-eyed. And this clarity was more valuable than any awakened superpower. The moment Jiang Ping stepped out of Huaihai Academy's gates, a notification sounded in his head. Ding! Congratulations, host. You have completed the Ability Awakening ritual and earned 50 energy points. Hearing that, Jiang Ping paused mid-step. Then, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. 50 points. Just enough. Without hesitation, he opened his system store. He instantly skipped over all the fancy ninjutsu techniques that were still far out of his price range and focused solely on what he could actually afford at the moment. 2 wood-style abilities, Wood Blockade, a defensive skill priced at 10 points, and Wooden Spear, an offensive skill, also 10 points. 3 Sharingan fundamentals, Illusion Casting, Replication, and Enhanced Perception, each costing 20 points. With 50 energy points available, he could afford to pick only 3 skills, ensuring 1 for offense and 1 for defense. It wasn't the hardest decision in the world, but it wasn't easy either. On the defensive side, there was no debate. Wood Blockade was the only D-rank defensive option worth buying. You have to stay alive before you can worry about anything else, so that slot was locked in. The offensive side, however, was trickier. The Wooden Spear was a straightforward choice, but spending only 10 points on it left another 10 points wasted, and there was nothing else worth purchasing among the remaining D-rank wood-style skills. A better option was to spend those points on Sharingan's illusion casting skill. Controlling your opponent could count as its own form of attack. As for the third option, replication or perception. Replication. He decided almost instantly. The Sharingan's replication ability was a game changer. Whatever abilities someone else had, they could become his. 0 today, but who knows? Maybe he'd accumulate 7 or 8 abilities by tomorrow. This kind of potential far outweighed anything enhanced perception could offer. Wood Blockade, illusion casting, and replication. Exactly 50 points spent. Jiang Ping closed the system interface and resumed walking home. The streets of Huaihai City were lined with vendors, bustling with noise and life like any ordinary city. However, the ordinary atmosphere shattered as soon as you tilted your head and looked toward the edge of town. A colossal wall, 50 meters tall, encircled the entire city. The wall had been under construction since more than 5 centuries ago. That was the year when spiritual energy had begun to reawaken in the world, granting humans superpowers. But spiritual energy didn't discriminate. It affected animals too. Humans became superpowered, gifted. Animals became demonic beasts. Ants, once tiny enough to crush underfoot, could mutate into tiger-sized monsters imbued with special abilities. The problem was this: humans were outnumbered by beasts. And so, the walls were built, enclosing all the surviving human settlements and keeping the beasts out. The 50-meter height was enough to repel most beasts, but no one wanted to think about what lay beyond the upper limits of its defense capability. Jiang Ping walked down the crowded street, glancing briefly at the wall before continuing forward. Currently, he had 3 new skills in his arsenal. He had no spiritual energy cultivated, and his 50 energy points were already spent. On the surface, he was still the useless student assigned to the support division. But he knew what he was waiting for. The Sharingan's replication required just the right opportunity, a close enough target with an ability worth copying. Such opportunities would naturally arise once classes began. The bigger issue was replenishing energy points. 50 wouldn't last long. On the day of his awakening, Jiang Ping decided to do something most people wouldn't dare. He went home to eat a meal with his father and directly told him the truth. He had awakened 2 useless abilities. For most families, those words might just spark a bit of disappointment. But for the Jiang family, the weight of those words was something else entirely. Huaihai City wasn't large. Beyond the walls, you either fought or accepted death. Within the walls, those at the top were the strongest of the strong. Jiang Ping's father, Jiang Lei, was one of only 3 5th-rank ability wielders in the city. He was an A-rank thunder ability user and the head of the Jiang family. Someone like him had almost zero tolerance for the word useless. The meal, sweet and sour ribs and osmanthus fish, was cooked by Jiang Lei himself. All dishes Jiang Ping particularly loved. There was a simple reason for this. His son's ability awakening marked an important milestone, and as a father, he was properly celebrating it. Jiang Ping sat at the table, savoring the aroma of the food. In his mind, he was already rehearsing how he'd deliver the news. "Dad," he began, "about today's awakening, I have both good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first?" Jiang Lei answered without much thought, "The good news. The good news is, I'm a double S rank." Hearing those words, Jiang Lei almost knocked over his chopsticks in surprise, bursting into laughter. Double S rank? How many students at Huaihai Academy even got that? His son was clearly destined to surpass him, climbing even higher. Then Jiang Ping said, "The bad news is, it's wood-based and clairvoyant-based." Halfway through his laugh, Jiang Lei's expression froze solid. Among all the known abilities, wood and clairvoyance were considered the most lackluster, nearly useless in combat. Throughout history, there were only a handful of individuals gifted enough to fully develop either of them. Most others would awaken abilities like this only to showcase. It was a comprehensive manual of combat techniques, applications, and theories related to the activation and utilization of various abilities. For most students, it was the Bible to becoming a proficient fighter. 2 days, Sun Shiyu announced, her tone sharp and commanding. That's all the time you have to grasp the fundamentals. Whether you succeed or fail in the field, that's entirely up to how seriously you take this. The room remained eerily quiet. Everyone in the room understood the gravity of her words. This wasn't just about passing a class or impressing a teacher. Outside the city, survival was the ultimate test. Jiang Ping leaned back in his chair, idly flipping through the pages of the assigned manual. To him, these theoretical passages felt detached, almost irrelevant to his circumstances. His so-called double S-tier abilities, universally mocked as useless, didn't seem to fit anywhere in these carefully devised categories and guidelines. While the rest of the class buried their heads in the book, trying to absorb as much as possible in the limited time frame, Jiang Ping was lost in thought. His father's words from the other night replayed in his mind. "Maybe you'll find a new path, one that no one else has walked before." The weight of that statement carried dual meanings. It was both genuine encouragement and a sharp reminder of the outlier status he would have to embrace if he wished to prove everyone wrong. The next 2 days passed in a blur. The school grounds were buzzing with activity. From the battle-focused squads to the more tactical and strategy-oriented classes, every student was under immense pressure to prepare for their first real-world test. For Jiang Ping, these days were met with mixed emotions. He spent most of his time practicing with little to no improvement in what others would call visible progress. The truth was that he didn't fully comprehend how his abilities were meant to work, let alone how to harness them in practical combat situations. His attempts at activation yielded no pronounced effects, leaving most instructors frustrated and unable to guide him further. Maybe they're right, he thought to himself one night, staring up at the dim lights of his dorm's ceiling. A glimmer of doubt began creeping through his otherwise calm demeanor. But then, another thought struck him, a defiant, almost arrogant voice in his head reasoned. Or maybe I just need to figure this out my own way. By the time day 3 arrived, the mood across the entire academy had shifted. Recklessness, excitement, tension, and fear all hung in the air. At sunrise, each division gathered at their designated assembly points, prepared, or, in some cases, entirely unprepared, to venture beyond the protective walls of Huaihai City for the first time. Jiang Ping's section, as the school's auxiliary class, naturally drew little attention. Perceived as non-essential and composed of leftovers, as they were often labeled, their departure was met with indifference from the larger student body. However, inside the auxiliary class's transport vehicle, the atmosphere was anything but dull. If anything, there was an unsaid camaraderie between the rejected and outcast figures seated within. They might have been dismissed as less than by others, but among themselves, they were equals, misfits with something to prove. It was within this brewing camaraderie that Jiang Ping found himself surprisingly relaxed. In a way, it reminded him of being with his father, a natural propensity for laughing in the face of pressure, for shrugging off failure and turning it into a challenge. He exchanged glances with Yin Yu, the infamous school beauty who was surprisingly down-to-earth despite her reputation. Seated across from him, she gave a small smile before returning her attention to her gear. It was clear she wasn't taking the next few hours lightly. To Jiang Ping, Yin Yu's presence was symbolic. If someone like her, who stood at the apex of student popularity and beauty standards, could accept being part of the auxiliary class without complaint, then who was he to gripe about his circumstances? The transport vehicle rumbled to a halt, shaking Jiang Ping out of his thoughts. Their instructor, Sun Shiyu, stepped to the front and turned to face her group. Her usual sharp-eyed focus honed in on the 32 faces before her. "Listen carefully," she began. "What lies outside this wall could kill you. Don't let all that auxiliary nonsense fool you into thinking this won't be dangerous. You were chosen to be here because someone, somewhere, saw something in you. Prove them right, or prove them wrong. Either way, from this moment, you are on your own out there." As they disembarked, Jiang Ping slipped his hands into his pockets, allowing a momentary smirk to tug at his lips. The terrain ahead looked unforgiving, but so was he. "Time to see what I'm really made of," he thought. Behind him, Yin Yu gave him a curious glance. "You don't seem scared," she said, as the group began making their way forward. Jiang Ping shrugged. "You could say it runs in the family." The book was designed to efficiently teach abilities. Pouring spiritual energy into it would make the corresponding techniques practically feed themselves back to you, even guiding you step by step through the process. It was almost impossible for anyone to fail to grasp the basics of an ability. Because of this, academies around the world had become irreplaceable. They were the lifeline for ordinary people who awakened to these powers, helping them to survive. Jiang Ping walked up and picked out 2 books, one for the wood element and one for the spirit eye element. Returning to his seat, he opened up the spirit eye book first. Surprisingly, the book only had 1 page. The entire spirit eye element abilities catalog boiled down to a single skill, eidetic memory. With this, one could perfectly recall written text, people's faces, or even the forms of beasts. At best, this skill could land someone a spot in the intelligence analysis unit to provide intel for the front line. But even for that, it required a ton of combat experience and sharp analytical skills. Without those as a foundation, The ability was practically useless. Jiang Ping stared at the lone page, silently processing this for a few seconds. Calling it a useless ability was hard to deny. The fact that it ranked dead last among all abilities in the academy wasn't just a rumor. This single page confirmed it. The irony, though, was undeniable. His Sharingan already included eidetic memory. It didn't just have it, it elevated it. The Spirit Eye Element book had nothing to teach him that his eyes hadn't already mastered, and far beyond. The useless ability labeled didn't belong on him. Setting aside the Spirit Eye book, he picked up the Wood Element book instead. This one was much thicker, about an inch in depth. Opening to the first page, he started reading. Growth, reproduction, healing. These were the three foundational abilities listed, with the last one, healing, annotated. The Wood Element carries the essence of life, capable of minor healing for small injuries. It's often the most basic form of support in a team-oriented setting. Jiang Ping kept flipping through the pages. He didn't have much time, only 2 days. Most of the students in the support class weren't genuine support-type ability users. The reality was far bleaker. Those relegated to this class were the ones whose abilities were graded too low and deemed unworthy of further development. No matter what their awakened element was, if it ranked below a single element grade D, this was where they ended up. With limited resources, the Academy saw no value in investing in individuals with no potential for significant growth. In other words, the future for most students in this class was grim. They were essentially treated as cannon fodder. Jiang Ping sat in a corner, his palm hovering over a small blade of grass. Faint green energy flowed from his hand, enveloping the grass in a soft glow. Before his eyes, the tiny blade sprouted and grew tall, transforming into a cluster of lush greenery. The result was clear and obvious. It had absolutely zero combat utility. This was the awkward reality of the Wood Element, 2 possible development routes, both leading to dead ends. If you lean towards agriculture, food production wasn't a critical issue in this era. The energy density found in beast meat far outstripped any crops the Wood Element could enhance, making it nothing more than a nice-to-have. If you lean towards healing and support, the Water Element was leagues ahead in effectiveness, with a broad base of users, a mature system, and a wealth of instructional resources in place. Comparatively, the Wood Element's limited healing abilities didn't even register as a contender. There was an old saying in the Academy: the Wood Element is the strongest joke among S-tier abilities. S-tier referred to potential, but no matter how high the potential ceiling was, the current limits were hard to ignore. With the framework at Huaihai Academy, there wasn't a single effective use for either the Wood or Spirit Eye elements. Even if they were rated as double S tier in potential, what difference did it make compared to a solid B or C tier? Jiang Ping didn't dispute this judgment, but he knew the assessment applied to Wood Element, not Wood Release. To Spirit Eye, not Sharingan. They weren't the same thing. The Academy's system couldn't be bothered to make the distinction, and Jiang Ping saw no point in explaining it to anyone. He flipped through all the foundational ability books, learning what he needed. More tools in his arsenal wouldn't hurt. Out on the balcony, other students activated their abilities one after another, showering the area in glimmering lights. A short-statured boy cautiously approached Jiang Ping after brief hesitation. Standing beside him for a moment, he finally worked up the courage to speak timidly. His name was Wei Lin, also a Wood Element user ranked at C tier. He'd spent half the day trying to grasp the growth skill and failed. Seeing Jiang Ping master it in one go drove him to muster every ounce of bravery. He had to come over and ask for help. The entire time, Wei Lin's eyes darted nervously to Jiang Ping's face, as if ready to apologize at the slightest hint of annoyance. Now, the only 2 Wood Element users in this class had been brought together. Jiang Ping thought for a moment, but decided not to send Wei Lin off to ask a teacher for help. Not because the teachers wouldn't help, but because Wei Lin's timid nature made that step overwhelming for him. Instead, Jiang Ping quickly explained the key techniques for both growth and reproduction. After several tries, Wei Lin got the hang of them. He thanked Jiang Ping profusely, but Jiang Ping waved it off dismissively, his eyes already back on the blade of grass in his hand. The truth was, the exploration of the Wood Element in this world had barely scratched the surface. It lacked offensive and defensive applications, and the known uses could be counted on one hand. But for Jiang Ping, it didn't matter. Would release wasn't something this system could define. Tomorrow, they'd leave the city. This looming task had hung over the support class since the afternoon. Not the kind of daunting excitement that stirred ambition, but a real, heavy pressure that made shoulders slump. You could work hard in class, master a couple of basic abilities, and feel like you were making progress against a practice target. But that was all safely within the city walls. Out there, outside the city, was a different reality. Out there were beasts. And those beasts wouldn't give you time to collect yourself. Ms. Sun had been blunt in her briefing. The support class did not have the individual power to face beasts on their own. To address this, the plan was to integrate them within mixed squads. 4-person teams composed of support and combat class students. 32 support students would be split into 8 squads. No one was to expect solo heroics. When the roster was announced, Jiang Ping heard his name assigned to a team with Yin Yu, Zhao Mei, and Wei Lin. Wei Lin visibly exhaled in relief. Being grouped with a familiar face was an unexpected comfort for someone like him, who could hardly keep his composure under pressure. Jiang Ping, on the other hand, didn't show much reaction. His thoughts drifted briefly back to the moment after school when Yin Yu had approached him. It was curious. Flora extended her hand in front of everyone and said, "I hope we can change the destiny of the support class together." It was a line she had said during the awakening ceremony, and Jiang Ping remembered it. But honestly, he didn't see how he had anything to do with that vision. He politely shook her hand and then stood silently, watching Yin Yu turn around and leave with nothing but a huge question mark lingering in his mind. Now, the two of them had been placed in the same team, making that phrase seem like an unintentional prelude. But Jiang Ping didn't dwell on it. His focus was on something else entirely. His Sharingan and his wood-style abilities. He had never used them in a real battlefield setting before. Tomorrow would be his first chance. When he got home, the dinner table was already set. It was a feast: peanut-braised pork trotters, red-braised lion's head meatballs, spicy boiled beef slices, chili chicken, and white-cut chicken. Jiang Lei, his father, was a 5th-tier, grade A thunder-based ability user. Outside, he was the kind of man whose presence commanded respect wherever he went. But at this dinner table, he was just an ordinary father. A quiet one, but one whose cooking spoke volumes of his care. Tonight's meal made it obvious. His son would be leaving the city tomorrow. When the western city gate opened, what rushed in wasn't the fresh morning breeze, but a wave of stench so foul it felt almost alive. It was a mix of decay, blood, and something undefinably vile. The smell invaded their noses, overwhelming. Many of the students suddenly went pale. Some covered their mouths. Others took cautious steps back. This was the real smell of the world outside the city walls, not the sterilized version described in textbooks, but raw reality. For students who had never stepped foot outside Huaihai City before, this was their first lesson out in the real world. But standing amidst the crowd, Jiang Ping's reaction was different from everyone else's. He wasn't afraid. If anything, he seemed excited. The moment he stepped through the academy gates, a notification popped up in his mind from the system. Complete your first live combat training against beasts and earn 100 energy points, plus unlock the mystery shop. 100 energy points wasn't an enormous reward, but it was enough to exchange for 2 or 3 C-ranked wood-style jutsu. But what intrigued him most was the mystery shop. What on earth could that be? He didn't know yet. But just hearing the word mystery was enough to make him reevaluate this seemingly routine trial in a whole new light. He needed to take this seriously. Next to him, Wei Lin had already noticed Jiang Ping's expression. He leaned closer and spoke in a low voice. "Hey Ping, you good? You kinda look excited? What's there to be scared of? There are so many teachers here. We can fight as much as we want and still be fine." Jiang Ping patted his shoulder, brushing it off casually. Wei Lin didn't respond, but his face spoke volumes. "You're not like the rest of us, are you?" The pre-departure pep talk was brief. Principal Wang Daochuan gave a short speech, essentially telling them, "Don't be afraid. The teachers will keep you safe." Then, with one command, hundreds of students started filing out of the city in an orderly manner. 80% of the teachers were accompanying them, an unprecedented level of support. But having teachers around and facing real monsters were two very different things. The massive group split into 4 smaller teams as they moved out from the city center, each heading toward one of the city gates. The support class was dispersed among different combat classes, with teams randomly assigned. Jiangping's team of 4 ended up with Special Class 3, departing from the West Gate. As soon as the news came through, several boys in Special Class 3 let out low cheers. It wasn't about the assignment itself, but because Yin Yu was in Team 8, now part of their group. Sun Shiyu's stern, "What's all the fuss about?" quickly killed the excitement. As for Sun Shiyu herself, she wasn't assigned to lead any specific class. She casually joined the Westgate team, functioning as an additional layer of security. Everything that unfolded from here happened after Jiangping's father, Jiang Lei, had specially prepared that hearty meal the night before. After the meal, pig trotters, a feast, the father and son exchanged a brief "good luck" and went their separate ways. Jiang Lei had to head to Shanghai City, a region where the beast activity had become unusually fierce, with rumors of a 5th-tier beast sighting. The authorities there lacked the strength and had turned to Huaihai City for help. 5th-tier beasts don't pose much of a threat. It takes a 6th tier to really make me sweat. When Jiang Lei had said this, he genuinely hadn't seemed concerned. As one of the 3 5th-tier ability users in Huaihai City, with a specialty in thunder, he had once taken on 3 opponents alone and walked away unscathed. A typical 5th-tier beast was nothing he couldn't handle. But as Jiang Ping stood at the city gates now, breathing in the rank stench, he suddenly realized the direction his father was heading wasn't fundamentally different from the direction he'd be taking today. Both were heading outside the safety of the walls. The wind kept blowing inward, carrying that putrid odor, which refused to fade. The students began walking forward, their pace noticeably slower than it had been when they were entering the city. What lay beyond the city walls was a mystery to them all, but now they were about to see it with their own eyes. The stench outside the city gates was their first trial. Rotten, sickly sweet, and omnipresent, it clung to the air. They hadn't walked far beyond the gates before the overwhelming odor had everyone wrinkling their noses. The scene matched the smell. Just beyond the walls, the landscape was littered with beast corpses, bones, rotting flesh, shattered claws, all piled high, numbering in the thousands. This wasn't some exhibit or warning sign. Sun Shiyu gave a simple explanation. These are the ones that tried to breach the city walls and were killed. In other words, just outside the city, there were always this many beasts waiting for a moment of opportunity. And that wall? It was the only thing separating humanity from that abyss. Several students were visibly shaken, some even stumbling as they tried to keep their footing. Their training ground was set less than 100 meters from the main wall, an open grassy area. Beyond that was a dense forest, the kind that breathed life into shadows, growls occasionally echoing from its depths. The teachers raised a translucent barrier around the group of 200, securing them inside, before heading into the forest to catch beasts for the training. Special Class 3's trial beast was a 1st-tier, 2-headed fire ant. It was the size of a fully grown lion, its carapace glowing an ominous red, with 2 heads that screeched like nails scraping on metal. The instant it was thrown into the temporary barrier, it began violently ramming the edges, making the entire ground tremble with its rage. No one dared to step forward. Finally, it was Yin Yu who broke the silence. Without hesitation, she walked straight to the front and said, "I'll go." Su Kuan quickly followed. He would never let an opportunity to back Yin Yu up slip by. Everyone else watched, unable to look away. One spot left. His gaze shifted to Jiang Ping. A double S-ranked ability user, dare to join us. The tone wasn't exactly friendly. Su Kuan's words seemed like an invitation, but his eyes betrayed a different story altogether. Underneath, his real intent was clear. A so-called double S rank with 2 virtually useless abilities, someone even his own family considered a joke. What kind of performance could such a person possibly bring against a real beast? Making a fool of himself in front of everyone would only set up Su Kuan's image nicely in front of Yin Yu. He was rather pleased with this little plan. Jiang Ping glanced at him and had no real intention of responding. But just then, a familiar voice rang out in his head. Ding, mission triggered. Accept Su Kuan's challenge and defeat the level 1 beast. Reward, 100 energy points and the activation of the lottery system. The lottery system. Those simple words made Jiang Ping hesitate, for a brief moment. Energy could be gathered slowly over time, but a lottery was something else entirely. It was like the system throwing open a door for you, instead of you having to climb the ladder step by step. All right, Jiang Ping replied. He stepped forward without hesitation. The moment the barrier wall fell, Jiang Ping already knew this fight had little to do with him. Su Kuan charged ahead, partially beast transforming into a bear-like form, while Yin Yu flung out water chains to immobilize the two-headed fire ant's movements. Their teamwork was seamless and effective, drawing an enthusiastic cheer from the onlookers. Jiang Ping, on the other hand, stood quietly to the side like an unnecessary spectator. After all, he was considered nothing more than a support-type ability user, the kind that was almost entirely ineffective in battle. That was a consensus the entire class agreed on. His two S-ranked abilities, one being wood manipulation and the other Shuriken-style foresight, sounded flashy on the surface but were utterly impractical in real combat. Then there was Su Kuan, who celebrated too soon with one overconfident punch. After landing a strike, the two-headed fire ant rolled on the ground, stood up, and appeared completely unscathed. Almost immediately, its two heads turned towards Su Kuan, opening their jaws in unison. Two enormous fireballs the size of basketballs blasted outward simultaneously. Su Kuan dove to the side in a frantic scramble, almost failing to avoid a fireball that was alarmingly close to a very sensitive area. The collective sound of sharp intakes filled the air. Transformative beast abilities like Su Kuan's feared nothing more than this, being unable to get close while the enemy roasted them from a safe range. Yin Yu intercepted two more rounds with water shields, managing to dissipate one of the fireballs. But there was no stopping all of them. The fire ant's two heads split targets. One fireball was aimed for Yin Yu, and the other flew straight at Jiang Ping. Yin Yu dealt with hers on her own. As for Jiang Ping, no one was in any position to help. From the teacher's seat, their instructor had already tensed, energy discreetly gathering at their fingertips, preparing to step in if necessary. Su Kuan stood to the side watching intently, his expression unreadable, a mix between malice and genuine curiosity, wondering how this useless support would possibly wiggle his way out of it. All eyes in the arena converged on a single point. The fireball bore down fast, close enough to feel its heat. Jiang Ping didn't move, not backward or to dodge. Instead, his hands began forming seals, each movement steady and precise, like clockwork. There was no rush, no panic, as if he had done this 1,000 times over. Wood style, wood locking wall. His voice was calm, almost unremarkable. The ground beneath his feet cracked open, and a cluster of wooden stakes erupted forth, curving toward each other to form a domed barrier just as the fireball reached him. Bang! The fireball struck, leaving scorch marks across the wood surface. But that was all. The scene fell eerily silent for several long seconds. The teachers slowly eased back into their seat, though their gaze never wavered from the wooden structure. Wood-based abilities were typically limited to entrapment and climbing. How could it possibly be used for such a strong defensive construct? This went far beyond everything they understood about his powers. Su Kuan was frozen in place, his mouth slightly agape, but no words came out. Jiang Ping stepped out from behind the wooden structure. When the crowd saw his eyes, their breath caught in silent awe. They were no longer his original eyes. Two scarlet orbs, each adorned with a trio of tomos spinning in motion, stared back at the arena. The aura was chilling, methodical, and held an inexplicable weight of pressure, a fully awakened three-tomo Sharingan, appearing without warning. Yin Yu, he said firmly, his calm tone unchanged, lock it down. I'll finish it off. Without hesitation, Yin Yu's water chains lashed out again, binding the two-headed fire ant securely in place. Jiang Ping had already closed the distance. The fire ant collapsed with a thunderous crash, and the first reaction from the crowd wasn't a cheer. It was a stunned, collective silence that lingered for a heartbeat. Then, chaos erupted. Wait, he took it down with one hit. Jiang Ping? That useless wood affinity guy? The questions were justified because the scene they had just witnessed was anything but normal. Taking down a beast with sheer physical strength was something only transformation types like Su Kuan could achieve, users whose bodies were enhanced to rival monsters themselves. Jiang Ping wasn't one of them. His abilities leaned heavily toward support. one for defense and observation, with not a single enhancement tied to physical power. Yet, there the fire ant lay. Someone in the audience was sharp enough to notice his eyes. Vibrant crimson, laced with an eerie beauty that didn't belong to ordinary humans. Is that some kind of ability from his eye mutation? No one could say for certain. They hadn't seen what really transpired when Jiang Ping's Sharingan instantly threw the fire ant into a state of disorientation. All they saw was the punch, a perfect, clean execution that convinced the entire class. As for the truth, that belonged to Jiang Ping alone. The illusion was real, just as the punch was. The only problem was that the punch left Jiang Ping desperate to restrain the yelp of pain threatening to escape his lips. He wasn't made for physical combat, and slamming his fist against the creature's armored carapace hurt a lot. To everyone else, his actions looked smooth and seamless. Inside, all Jiang Ping could think was how badly his hand throbbed. But substance didn't matter, results did. His Sharingan-induced illusion threw the fire ant off just long enough to land the decisive first strike. The timing was spot on, flawlessly misleading the audience and his peers. Su Kuan stood on the sidelines, his face shifting from green to white to red. Jiang Ping could easily guess what had been running through his head, setting up the so-called strongest failure for public humiliation. Only, this failure had not only avoided embarrassment, but walked away with a stage full of stunned stares and newfound recognition. As Yin Yu passed him, she gave him a small smile, her voice soft. Nice hit. No matter how composed someone's mind, moments like these made it nearly impossible not to get a little distracted. Jiang Ping nodded in acknowledgement, choosing not to say much, and slipped back into the formation quietly. And right on cue, the system chimed in his head. Ding. Mission complete. Mission. Earn 100 energy points. Spin the wheel lottery system activated. He opened it up and saw a roulette wheel with 10 slots, each labeled with names he clearly recognized. Flying Thunder God Technique, Sage Mode, Multi-Shadow Clone Technique, Mangekyo Sharingan, 8 Trigram Seal, Reaper Death Seal. The entire wheel was filled with extraordinary abilities. Jiang Ping stared at the screen, his eyes sparkling. Then, he noticed the price tag. Single spin, 5,000 energy points. His current balance, 100 energy points. For a solid 3 seconds, he was completely silent. The number 5,000 wasn't a typo. He double-checked. It was indeed 5,000. Not 500, not 50, but an overwhelming 5,000. He had just completed a task battling a beast and had performed flawlessly, yet the reward wasn't even a fraction of what was needed for one spin of the wheel. And not every slot on the roulette was worth that cost. Sure, the slot for the Reaper Death Seal had undeniable power, but the technique came with a severe cost, your life. It was the kind of skill that traded raw strength for certain death. To Jiang Ping, landing on that slot was as good as getting nothing. Similarly, abilities like the Mayhem Technique or something like Wood-style piling weren't much better when compared to the other options. Spending 5,000 energy points for the high chance of landing on something mediocre? Meanwhile, that same 5,000 could buy a handful of practical techniques outright from the exchange shop. The math wasn't hard to figure out, and the answer was obvious. Who in their right mind would bother spinning the wheel? Without a second thought, he closed the lottery interface and opened the exchange shop instead. 3 abilities of the Sharingan were available: illusions, copying, and perception. He had already unlocked 2 of them previously, leaving perception as the only one left. To fully activate the Sharingan, all 3 abilities needed to be acquired. It wasn't complete otherwise. The last piece of the puzzle cost 20 energy points. He didn't hesitate and purchased it on the spot. Finally, his Sharingan was fully active, complete with the 3-tomo design. That left him with 80 energy points remaining. What came next required careful consideration. The evolutionary path for the Sharingan was rather short. Once it reached 3-tomo, the next stage was the Mangekyo Sharingan, with no intermediate steps. But the Mangekyo Sharingan required a whopping 8,000 energy points to unlock. He currently had 80. The gap was enormous, so far out of reach that it wasn't even worth dwelling on for now. Yet the looming number of 8,000 was an undeniable challenge, quietly pressing down in the back of his mind. After finalizing his decisions, Jiang Ping didn't take a break. Instead, he stood by the training grounds, watching his classmates take on challenges one group at a time. Surprisingly, what he saw started to pique his interest. The illusion specialists were the first to catch his eye. Their opening move was always the same, creating a mirage of themselves to confuse the beasts. It worked at first. The issue was, if the beast caught on and realized which was real, it would pounce right at the person's legs. Illusions, while flashy and deceptive, turned into dead weight the moment the enemy saw through them. The puppet specialists were even simpler to pick apart. The standard-issue puppets provided by the school were poorly made. Against low-tier beasts, they could manage to hold their own, but once the puppets broke, their users were basically powerless, standing there awkwardly, unsure what to do. Then there were the weapon controllers, manipulating flying swords or blades through the air. While it looked impressive at a glance, once the beast bypassed the flying blades and charged at the person directly, the chaos quickly unraveled. The swords flailed aimlessly as the controllers scrambled to dodge. What these three groups had in common was obvious. Once the enemy got close, they were done for. The elemental ability users, on the other hand, were the largest group and definitely the most eye-catching. Fire users launched fireballs, water users whipped water chains, wind users sliced with air blades, earth users created stone walls, and lightning users summoned crackling electric strikes. Each display brought cheers and applause from the crowd. Jiang Ping, however, watched with detached calmness, unaffected. It wasn't that he looked down on them. It was just, to him, these abilities all had noticeable limits at this stage. Take earth users, for example. Their stone walls might be sturdy, but they were only as wide as a door. An average beast could simply go around it. Lightning abilities had visual flair, but he had seen the pinpoint precision of Sharingan's copied techniques. Compared to that level of control, these widespread attacks felt incomplete, scattershot. As he analyzed, a thought crossed his mind. The Sharingan could copy all these techniques, yet he wasn't particularly tempted to do so. Copying techniques cost resources and effort to master, and at this moment, it wasn't worth the investment. He already had 3 wood-style techniques in his arsenal. The first, Wood Spear, was designed for single-point piercing attacks. He could summon it from his body or nearby trees. Quick, silent, and deadly accurate. The second, Forest Barrier, served as a defensive shield. It could protect himself or others in a critical moment. The third, Exploding Tree Branches, was a versatile hybrid. It could summon vines and trees to bind enemies or act as a reactive defense, absorbing enemy hits. Offense and defense, both active and passive, this combination gave him a solid advantage. Estimating his current strength, Jiang Ping felt confident that he could now take on a low-tier beast solo and win. This quiet sense of confidence made his expression calm and composed as he watched the unfolding chaos on the training grounds. Suddenly, the final group stepped up. Among them was Wei Lin. The other two in his group, a water user and a fire user, worked surprisingly well together. The water user focused on trapping and controlling the beast, while the fire user unleashed bursts of damage. But Wei Lin was a problem. Standing there on the battlefield, he didn't summon anything. Wei Lin's ability was single-element wood style, and it was a D rank at that. The only thing he could do was stimulate plant growth. But grass? Grass couldn't hold back beasts nor damage them. On the battlefield, Wei Lin was little more than a sitting duck. Comments began drifting from the crowd. Wood style is useless, I've been saying. D-rank wood style. Might as well go home and start gardening. Wei Lin visibly flinched. His shoulders slumped, and he stood frozen in place as if he didn't belong, unable to advance or retreat. Jiang Ping shifted his attention toward the few who were sneering aloud. Among them were people who had been visibly shaking when it was their turn earlier, only mustering courage thanks to their teammates. Without that support, they'd likely have embarrassed themselves. You have something against wood style? His voice wasn't loud, but it was enough to make the group shut up immediately. 以直接和妖兽建立契约，将他们召唤到战场上。这不仅能提供额外的战斗力，还能让他在团队中的价值提升一个层次。张平没有犹豫太久，迅速选择了购买通灵之术。的丁已成功兑换通灵之术，扣除能量之8020。在提示音响起的瞬间， 他的脑海中开始出现关于通灵术的完整使用方法和运行原理，每一个步骤都清晰明了，仿佛天生就会。他感觉到体内的能量流动变化了一瞬，似乎在为通灵术做出调整。他嘴角微微扬起，有意思，接下来可以试试了。江平喃喃自语。其实他心底已经开始盘算起来。妖兽是这个世界战斗力的中心之一，如果能和强大的妖兽签订契约，战局的主动权就会牢牢掌握在他手中。更重要的是，这种优势彻底改变了木系能力原本被认为是废材的地位。江平对魏林说：“木系能更强，这可不是空口说大话，他要用实际行动证明。”木系也能站在这个世界能力体系的巅峰。第二天一早，训练场上又聚满了人。昨天的实战训练让这些学员亲身体会到了实力的差距，也让他们意识到必须更加努力。今天的气氛格外紧张，没人顾得上闲聊，所有人都在默默展现自己的能力，争取在接下来的训练中不被淘汰。但江平却显得异常平静，他没有像其他人那样急于表现能力，而是站在角落里，默默研究刚刚掌握的通灵术。他知道自己并不需要向这些人证明什么，他有更大的目标。突然，几个班里的实力派开始切磋，雷系、火系、冰系的异能轰然碰撞，炸起满天飞屑。旁观的人惊呼连连，但江平只是冷眼旁观。就在雷火交织的一瞬间，他突然举起手，动作缓慢地开始结印。几乎没人注意到他的动作，直到地面开始震动，一根粗大的藤蔓瞬间从地面破土而出，高高扬起，将雷火隔绝开来，像一面移动的盾牌挡住了所有攻击。藤蔓表面光滑如钢，纹理中散发着清冷的光泽，显得格外坚韧。场面静了下来，那些原本对木系嗤之以鼻的人，一个个张大了嘴巴。大家只知道木系通常只能催生简单的植物，用来辅助治疗或者布置微不足道的陷阱，而眼前这根藤蔓竟然硬生生挡住了雷火的冲击，简直颠覆了他们的认知。雷系学员惊叹道：“你的木系还能做到这种地步？”江平没有回答，只是拍了拍藤蔓，让它缩回地面，然后将手负在身后，神色平静。这一幕无疑重重敲响了众人的心。虽说木系没用，人群中有人低声嘀咕了一句，而站在人群后方的魏林眼神愈发炙热，他前头轻轻攥紧，心底燃起了一种前所未有的斗志。他知道，木系或许并非注定低人一等，只要找到正确的方向，他也有可能像江平那样创造奇迹，成为真正的强者。江平注意到了魏林的目光，但没有立刻回应。他站在一旁，目光平静地看着眼前的训练场，心中却已经有了打算。他知道，这个沉默又执着的少年，将是木系崛起的重要钥匙。夜晚，疲惫的学员们都已回到宿舍，训练场恢复了安静。江平却没有离开，他站在空旷的场地中央，缓缓开始尝试通灵术。他咬破指尖，快速在地上画出一个复杂的咒印，然后按下双手。通灵之术，伴随着一声轻喝，咒印发出微弱的光芒，一阵白烟升腾而起，朦胧中一个巨大的身影渐渐显现。江平抬头看到了一头赤红的妖狼，浑身布满了火焰般的纹路，目光凶厉却带着一丝疑惑，低声咆哮着。两者的目光在半空中碰撞，空气变得紧张起来。江平轻轻勾了勾嘴角，从今天开始，你就是我的了。Directly contracting wild beasts out there. No need to rely on the system. no random draws, negotiate on your own, and establish your own contracts. Once he figured this out, Jiang Ping didn't hesitate anymore and made the exchange directly. Exchange successful. Summoning technique unlocked. One summoning scroll is included as a bonus. Note: each summoning scroll can only be used to contract a single summoned beast. For additional summons, purchase scrolls. Price per scroll, 20 energy points. Jiang Ping stared at this notification for a brief moment in silence. One scroll, one summon. He had already envisioned his strategy, contracting hundreds of wild beasts and forming his own personal army. However, before he even got to the point of strategizing troop formations, this army had been mercilessly slaughtered by the outrageous price of 20 energy points per scroll. If there's one thing you should never trust, it's a profiteering merchant. Jiang Ping could now confirm that firsthand. By the time he snapped out of it, the team had already dispersed, and they were back on school grounds. Sun Shiyu stood in front of Class 1's support division, addressing them. Her message was congratulatory. She applauded everyone for taking their first step, noting that whether they faced it bravely or nervously, they had successfully completed their first bout of real combat. Jiang Ping redirected his attention to her words, though a small part of his mind lingered on that shop page. The discount lasted 14 more days. 20 energy points per scroll. That math problem was already circling in his mind. The mission got moved up. Not by a week, not by a few days. It was happening the day after tomorrow. When Sun Shiyu announced this from the podium, the class didn't burst into applause. The room was silent. Everyone knew the mission was inevitable, but knowing it was one thing. Being told it was happening the day after tomorrow was something entirely different. Just yesterday, they were barely surviving in training simulations, and now, one more training session tomorrow was all that stood between them and a real hunt alongside the Academy's execution team to take down wild beasts. The pace was unnervingly fast, but there was no room for negotiation. At Huaihai Academy, obeying orders was a rule engraved in their handbook. The penalty for refusing missions wasn't as mild as standing in a corner, it was expulsion. And in this world, being expelled carried a dire consequence. Anyone without the Academy's endorsement, cast into the wild lands where beasts roamed freely, might as well consider it a death sentence. So while no one protested aloud, the unease was written all over their faces. In the midst of this heavy atmosphere, Sun Shiyu acknowledged two students. Yin Yu, whose mastery of water-based abilities impressed everyone. Unsurprising, as she was a dual S rank and widely regarded as the best in the class. The other was Jiang Ping. Sun Shiyu remarked, "Today, Jiang Ping proved to many that wood-based abilities aren't useless. In fact, for defense, it can stand alongside earth abilities." The class buzzed with quiet murmurs. Wood abilities had long been regarded as one of the weakest. Being singled out for praise by the instructor in front of everyone suggested that Jiang Ping had achieved something exceptional. But Jiang Ping wasn't particularly moved by the recognition. His thoughts had already wandered to another pressing matter. 2 days from now, his classmate Wei Lin, who hadn't even fully grasped the basics of their abilities, would be in the fight. What then? Wei Lin was just as anxious. He caught up with Jiang Ping outside the school gates, blurting out before anything else, "Hey, Ping-ji, you said you'd teach me wood-based powers. When do we start?" His tone carried a tinge of embarrassment, but the situation didn't allow for vanity. Jiang Ping thought for a moment before replying, "Tonight. Come home with me." Meanwhile, on the rooftop, Sun Shiyu stood beside Wang Daochuan. Both watched as the students trickled away, neither saying a word. After a lengthy silence, Sun Shiyu broke it. She asked the question that had been simmering in every instructor's mind. "Trimming down the training timeline like this, are we sure it's going to work?" Wang Daochuan didn't sugarcoat his response. He said, "Beast reproduction rates are accelerating, and they're getting smarter. If we keep training students at the old pace, by the time they're combat ready, the beasts will have already caught up. Humans already have a numbers disadvantage. If we let the beasts close the training gap too, the outcome will be inevitable." The tempo had to change. The students had to adapt to the battlefield, quickly. Sun Shiyu frowned, but didn't argue further. It wasn't that she agreed, but she knew that once Wang Daochuan made a decision, there was no swaying him. Despite his laid-back demeanor, he had always been steadfast about the line he was following. The conversation shifted to the two Dual S rank students. Sun Shiyu observed. Yin Yu has already mastered her water abilities quickly, but as for her holy attribute, she's yet to use it. We're not sure of her full capabilities. Wang Daochuan, however, wasn't worried. Yin Yu's intuition is sharp. Her holy attribute is likely already under her control. She probably just doesn't see the need to use it yet. When the situation demands it, she'll reveal what she can do. Within the entire academy, there were only two known individuals with holy attributes, Wang Daochuan himself and Yin Yu. This ability was so enigmatic that even Sun Shiyu couldn't fully understand it. But there was one thing she noticed. Every time this topic came up, Wang Daochuan would pause as though privately mulling over something he had never shared. And as for the situation regarding the other Dual S rank student, Wang Daochuan hadn't yet given his thoughts. Wood and Spirit Eye, the two lowest ranked abilities in the known spectrum of powers. And it wasn't without reason. Historically, the highest recorded talent in Wood abilities hadn't surpassed AB rank, and Spirit Eye never even reached that threshold, capped at C rank. With such a low ceiling, there was little research, which led to no breakthroughs. The cycle perpetuated, and these abilities had been neglected for decades, relegated to survival rather than combat. That was, of course, until today, when a sudden burst of massive wooden vines and defensive barriers rendered the training arena speechless. When Sun Shiyu reported this anomaly to Wang Daochuan, she had already tempered her tone as much as she could. Even so, Wang Daochuan paused. A defensive move from a wood ability? One comparable to earth and water defenses? This didn't align with wood being weak. This was a question no one had thought to explore in decades. Wang Daochuan finally waved it off. He didn't want anyone to disturb him. The logic was simple. Jiang Ping was a double S ranked ability user, the most gifted in the history of both the wood element and spiritualized systems. These systems had never truly advanced because there had never been an S-rank user to push their boundaries. Now, this person had appeared, and he just so happened to be Jiang Lei's son. Someone like him only needed space to grow. Interference would only be counterproductive. Jiang Ping, however, didn't overthink it. That afternoon, he brought Wei Lin home. When Wei Lin walked through the door, he clearly hesitated for a moment. The imposing villa, the butler greeting them at the door, the sheer display of wealth. It was a world completely alien to him. But Jiang Ping didn't give him time to linger in awe. He cut straight to the chase with a few words. I brought you here for business. Let's get to work. Wei Lin immediately snapped to attention. This quick focus earned him an internal nod of approval from Jiang Ping. Before they officially started, Jiang Ping laid it out plainly. My wood element techniques might not suit everyone. You might not be able to learn them, so don't get your hopes too high. This wasn't some false humility. It was a genuine disclaimer. His techniques for manipulating wood, what he called wood tunt, had been developed through his own experimentation. He wasn't sure if they could even be taught to someone else. Still, he asked Wei Lin a direct question. What do you know about the wood element? Wei Lin's answer surprised him, not because it was wrong, but because it was so honest. Not much, Wei Lin replied candidly. He only knew of two general applications for the wood element, healing and fostering plant growth. And even the latter was something Jiang Ping had only just taught him. Before that, he hadn't even scratched the surface. This, oddly enough, turned out to be a good starting point. Someone without preconceived notions was often more adaptable to new ways of thinking. Jiang Ping wasted no time and began at the foundation, fostering growth. His approach boiled down to one provocative question. If the wood element can double a plant's growth speed, why can't it grow even faster? The question hung in the air, and Wei Lin fell silent. He wasn't stuck. He was genuinely mulling it over. He muttered softly to himself, revisiting the logic of what he knew. The wood element's origins lay in agriculture, and the speed at which plants could be grown was capped because exceeding that limit would disrupt the plant's natural growth. If crops grew poorly, the entire purpose of the wood element would lose meaning. So, this speed limitation had been accepted as a hard rule. But what if the goal wasn't to grow crops naturally at all? What if the objective was simply to make a plant grow as large as possible, as fast as possible? Wei Lin's gaze sharpened suddenly. His hand reached forward, green energy flowing out in abundance. Then Jiang Ping heard a sharp crack. The hardwood floor split open. From the crack emerged a small seedling. In just a few seconds, it swelled into a towering tree, over 6 feet tall and half a meter thick, standing boldly in the middle of Jiang Ping's living room. For a moment, Jiang Ping was taken aback. Then he smiled. He had only pointed out a direction, without giving any concrete instructions, and yet Wei Lin had figured it out on his own. This guy had far more aptitude than Jiang Ping expected. But this was only the first step. Without further prompting, wooden spikes erupted from the ground, swiftly forming into a piercing, spear-like structure that thrust forward. Wei Lin paused for a moment before realizing what had happened. He had actually succeeded. This wasn't just luck or coincidence. Just a short while ago, he had been the guy stuck at the edge of the battlefield, helpless against the monsters. Now, his connection to the wood element had turned into something genuinely offensive. Seeing Wei Lin's excitement, Jiang Ping couldn't help but comment objectively. "You're a ridiculously fast learner." But fast learning didn't mean unstoppable power. The two quickly reconvened on the lawn for a sparring session. Jiang Ping erected a defensive wood shield, using his advanced techniques, and instructed Wei Lin to attack with his newly mastered abilities at full force. Wei Lin poured his energy into summoning a thick wooden log that slammed directly into the shield with a loud crash. Splinters flew in all directions, but it was Wei Lin's own wood that fractured. Jiang Ping's shield only dented slightly and remained intact. Rather than feeling defeated, Wei Lin took this opportunity to reflect. He realized one key truth. What he wielded was the wood element's raw power, while Jiang Ping's mastery over wood tunt was an evolved form of that power. They were fundamentally two different things. The gap in strength was real, but at least it was no longer a matter of "can I do this?" but instead, "how much stronger can I get?" For Wei Lin, this was already a life-changing breakthrough. He stayed for dinner, but his mind was so preoccupied with his newfound capabilities that he barely heard a word of conversation. When the meal ended, he dashed off eagerly to resume training. Jiang Ping watched him disappear into the distance before turning to go back inside. Casually, he called out, "Chen Bo, have someone come fix the floor." The next day, inter-class sparring sessions were held. Students squared off to test the limits of their abilities. But by the third day, the real action began. Everyone gathered at the plaza. The auxiliary class, split into 8 teams, was assigned to support various combat units. Jiang Ping, Wei Lin, Yin Yu, and Zhao Mei were grouped back into the Special Combat Class 3. Standing in the distance was Su Kuan, his expression unreadable but his gaze sharp. He smirked, his voice dripping with condescension. "Well, look who decided to show up. The wood element user who froze on the battlefield last time. Afraid your legs will give out again on today's mission." 2 days ago, Wei Lin might have lowered his head in embarrassment, because back then, the accusation wasn't far from the truth. But now, things were different. He met Su Kuan's eyes directly, steadfast and unwavering. "First of all, my name is Wei Lin. Second, I didn't freeze then, and I won't freeze now." Su Kuan scoffed, unconvinced. "Talking big won't help. Let's see if you can back it up out there. Maybe your fists will speak louder than your words." "They will," Wei Lin replied calmly. He wasn't interested in trading verbal blows or proving himself in an argument. What mattered now was action. Fell to the ground, lifeless. The words that Wei Lin spoke today were ones he couldn't have uttered just 2 days ago, not out of arrogance, but simply because back then, he truly had nothing to back them up. Now he did. The mission was about to begin. The beasts wouldn't wait for anyone, nor would they care whether someone was good at crafting elegant words. But the way Wei Lin stood here today, there was no denying that it was completely different from before. The tension on the training field shifted, not because of the supervising instructor, but due to the presence of 4 individuals standing on the flank of the group. Dressed in black combat uniforms and white masks, their gazes, sharp as blades, scanned through the students. They were from the execution department, the real, bloodstained authority of Huaihai Academy. Every member had clawed their way out of life-or-death battles with the beasts. Their lethal aura wasn't an act. It was forged in the heat of life-and-death combat. No one made it into the execution department by seniority alone. They earned it through skill and survival. The leader went by Qing Yun. His mask exhibited cloud patterns painted in blue. He spoke without unnecessary words. 5 days. 100 beasts. Bring back all the corpses. 100. When that number was announced, half of the 40-plus students groaned in outright despair. Just yesterday, they had been sparring on campus, and now they were being herded into the forest. Before they'd even made it 10 minutes outside the city gates, the dense trees overhead had already stolen away most of the daylight, and not far away, a first-rank beast was quietly observing them from between the shadows. Yin Yu ignored the complaints, adding, 3 beasts per team per day. Form groups of 4. Right now, after some initial chaos, the crowd began to split into teams. The braver ones got to organizing themselves quickly, while the timid were left lingering and exchanging uneasy glances. Jiangping's situation was unique. Their entire team, as it turned out, consisted of support role specialists. Yin Yu support, Zhao Mei support, Wei Lin's wood-based powers, while having some combat application, leaned primarily towards support as well. And Jiangping's own ability. Well, to most, his power was practically non-existent. Yin Yu approached him, and it caught Jiangping by surprise. After all, this wasn't just anyone. It was the Academy's beloved school flower, who had just turned down an invitation from Su Kuan's team not minutes ago. Yet here she was, asking if they could team up instead. That showed she must have made a calculated decision, but what her reasoning wasn't yet clear. On the other side, Su Kuan was visibly irritated. He didn't hold back, throwing a jab. You're all support roles. No damage dealers. How exactly do you plan to complete the mission? Jiangping didn't waste words. The question itself didn't matter. What mattered was simple. The 4 of them needed to slay 3 beasts today in this forest, and at least one of them held something in their hands that no one else could see. Would it be enough? That would only be revealed once they stepped into the wilderness. For support specialists, going after a mid-tier, first-rank beast, a fire-type rampaging flame bear. It wasn't a team setup anyone would call normal. And yet, they went ahead. The rampaging flame bear stood over 2 meters tall. Either one of its massive arms could turn a person into pulp with a single swipe. Among first-rank beasts, it was infamous for 2 things, being absurdly tough and outrageously aggressive. Jiangping charged in with his short blade, while Yin Yu and Zhao Mei cast water chains to bind the bear's paws. The moment an opening appeared, Jiangping stabbed it in its exposed side. The blade sunk in, all of 3 centimeters. Just 3. Its hide was like solid steel. He couldn't push the blade in any further. The attack didn't kill the bear. Instead, it enraged it. With a roar, it exploded with brute force, snapping the water chains apart like paper. Its massive fists came crashing down with a deafening whoosh. And then Jiangping did something none of the other 3 expected. His Sharingan-like, scarlet eyes flared. In the instant before the fists fully descended, he discerned the trajectory of the force, withdrew the blade, stepped off the ground, and leapt backward just in time. The bear's strike cratered the ground where Jiangping had stood a second earlier. The heightened perception of his ability had saved him from being shredded, but the bigger problem remained. The blade couldn't pierce the bear's hide, and the chains couldn't hold it down. This beast was beyond manageable. In the second round, Wei Lin's wood-based vines tangled around the bear's legs while Yin Yu and Zhao Mei both summoned 4 water chains each. This time, they pinned the bear solidly to the ground. Jiangping leapt again, gripping his blade with both hands, and drove it down. This time, he drove it 10 centimeters deep. The bear let out an ear-splitting roar, its bound limbs thrashing violently against their restraints. Yin Yu called for the team to hold it steady, not to let it rise. Then suddenly, its fur ignited. Body ignite. Yin Yu shouted, but too late. The flames incinerated the water chains and vines in an instant. The beast rose, enraged. But its target wasn't Jiangping. It turned on Yin Yu, Zhao Mei, and Wei Lin. It wasn't hard to understand. It had been these 3 who had repeatedly trapped and restrained it, causing its frustration to reach a boiling point. The bear charged at them, hatred blazing in its burning eyes. In rapid bursts, it launched 3 fireballs. Zhao Mei's water shield shattered. Wei Lin's wood shield disintegrated. Only Yin Yu's water barrier held up. But the next second, the bear closed the distance, its fists pummeling down. Zhao Mei and Wei Lin didn't even have the time to cast again. Yin Yu managed to conjure a water stream from above. momentarily pushing the bear's fists off course so they slammed into the ground instead of her teammates. Yet the sheer impact of the blow still sent both Zhao Mei and Wei Lin flying. Now, two members of the team lay sprawled on the ground, and the bear, still ablaze, stood menacingly. For a brief moment, as the rampaging flame bear pounced out from the wreckage of the trees, Yin Yu almost thought this beast was truly undefeatable. And then, the ground itself seemed to eat the flames whole. When the explosion of movement cleared, the bear stood once again, but this time, it was faster than before. It charged directly at Jiang Ping, its fiery mane trailing like molten fury. Jiang Ping didn't cast another seal. He took 2 steps back and stayed still, his crimson eyes calm, locked onto the beast's. Only for a fleeting second, as their gaze met. As the bear leapt high into the air, mid-pounce, its body abruptly froze mid-motion. It was as though some invisible thread controlling it had been severed. It fell, lifeless, to the forest floor. A blade dropped by Jiang Ping's foot. Yin Yu didn't even have time to blink before she heard a wet sound. Asterisk shunk asterisk. The short sword had pierced cleanly through the demon bear's skull. It was over. What did you use? Yin Yu jogged over, her eyes filled with confusion as they locked on the massive corpse. That's a secret, Jiang Ping replied, his voice calm despite his quickened breaths. He had no intention of explaining the Sharingan. Not now, not ever. Revealing your trump card voluntarily? That was the kind of foolish mistake he didn't plan on making. But what truly caused his brow to furrow wasn't the secrecy, it was their current state. A single demon beast had left the team of 4 in shambles. Wei Lin and Zhao Mei were both injured. Yin Yu's spiritual energy was nearly drained, and even Jiang Ping himself felt the toll of employing so many techniques, far more exhausting than he had predicted. And their task today required taking down 3 of these beasts. At this rate, Yin Yu's brows knit tightly, though she didn't finish her sentence. Her meaning was clear. Rest first. We'll move after our spiritual energy recovers. Jiang Ping crouched down and yanked the short sword out of the demon bear's skull with deliberate force. As the blade slid free, he paused in surprise. The wound glimmered faintly. A faint, fiery red glow emanated from within, as if something alive was nestled deep inside it. Curious, Jiang Ping pried open the creature's skull. His hand extracted a small, thumb-sized crystal. Smooth, scalding, and as vividly red as solidified flames. A beast core. The odds of a first-tier demon beast producing a beast core were slim, but somehow, this raging demon bear bore one. Such an item had multiple uses. Its sealed energy could be absorbed directly, refined, traded, or utilized in rare crafting techniques. Jiang Ping weighed the beast core in his palm. Its presence improved today's hunt beyond expectations. Yet, there were still 2 beasts left unaccounted for. After dealing with the ferocious demon bear, Jiang Ping's first instinct wasn't relief, it was to extract the core. He carefully plunged the blade back in, retrieving a dark red fire elemental beast core. A notification from his system popped up, first-tier mid-rank, convertible for 100 energy points. That one core alone was enough to purchase a discounted illusion skill on the spot. At the time, his only thought was, this was the path forward. Hunt demon beasts, collect the beast cores, and exchange them for energy points to acquire skills. As long as this cycle turned, everything else would follow. But that cycle halted after the second beast. Over the next 4 days, their team hunted 9 more creatures, a snow wolf, thornvine ape, and iron-plated lizard, among others. Each time, Jiang Ping approached with his blade to search for a core. And each time, nothing. 3 fruitless attempts had already rubbed the initial excitement clean away. This was the standard reality. First-tier beasts rarely produced cores. That raging demon bear had been a rare anomaly. Stable core yields came only from second-tier beasts. But with the power of second-tier beasts, his team of 4 wouldn't even stand a chance. It meant that while the get-rich-quick scheme existed, the threshold to succeed was just beyond his reach. That said, the team's overall performance had significantly improved compared to 4 days ago. From the initial chaos facing the raging demon bear, their coordination had now grown immensely. Yin Yu locked targets, Zhao Mei restrained with water chains, Wei Lin suppressed with wood elemental control, and Jiang Ping finished with a precise lethal blow using his wooden spear technique. Gradually, the group found their rhythm. On the fourth day, when the 10th snow wolf finally fell, their task was completed, on time and in full, even with a day to spare. Zhao Mei cheered on the spot, and Wei Lin exhaled deeply with relief. Yet amidst the satisfaction, something unexpected caught both Yin Yu and Zhao Mei off guard. When they dragged the 10th snow wolf back to the camp, the sky was already darkening. The official from the execution division, Blackwater, glanced at the stacked corpses and gave a curt nod. Team 1, task complete. 10 demon beasts in 4 days. At least half a day ahead of the other teams. People in the camp chatted about Yin Yu's performance, the wooden element skills, and how their team wasn't as weak as rumored. Off to one side, Su Kuan stood, his disdain poorly hidden. He'd almost been placed in this team himself, but now, all he could do was stand on the sidelines listening to others discuss their success. Jiang Ping paid them no mind. On the way back, Yin Yu asked him a direct question. She'd noticed his eyes change frequently during combat. Had he developed a new subset ability in the spiritual eye lineage? The question was straightforward. Jiang Ping dodged it with equal tact, flipping the topic back on her. You haven't used your holy line abilities even once. How come? Yin Yu paused for a moment, then smiled. The holy element isn't that special. You'll see it when the chance comes. Both of them were deflecting, playing verbal chess. And that wasn't surprising. The Academy's teachings drilled it into them. Disclosing your trump card was the easiest mistake to be punished for in this world. Beasts could kill you, but people could kill you just as easily. While their teamwork over the past few days had been solid, strong teamwork and trust in each other's secrets were two entirely different things. In the camp, a pile of beast carcasses had grown to 70 or 80, a testament to every team's gradual success. With 1 day left, the required quota had been reached. Jiang Ping ducked into his tent, ready to sleep. Wei Lin, who hadn't yet dozed off, peeked outside and suddenly asked, "Are those beasts alive over there?" Jiang Ping raised his head to look. Under the pale light of a moonstone, several first-tier beasts were tied to trees near the camp boundary. They were still breathing, entirely still. They were beasts the beast taming division had subdued over the past few days. But here was the issue. Those subdued beasts were left tethered outside the camp overnight. And outside, other wild beasts were still active. The ground began to tremble, at first so faint that Jiang Ping thought Wei Lin might have been fidgeting. But it grew steadily louder, heavier, with a rhythmic pattern unmistakable as countless footsteps. His eyes snapped open. Outside, someone from Qing Yun's squad bellowed. "Everyone, assemble immediately." Huang Yu vaulted to the treetops for a better view. His voice swept down, eerily calm, announcing as if reporting the weather. A beast horde, less than 2,000 meters away. The words beast horde rippled through the camp like a thunderclap, and chaos erupted within moments. The sound of chaos grew louder. This wasn't some freak occurrence, but a full-scale disaster, a beast tide. Thousands upon thousands of monstrous creatures stampeding together, leaving waves of destruction behind. Trees toppled like dominoes, and anything in their path was reduced to dust. The leading instructor acted quickly, barking orders for all students to retreat immediately. But as they took their first steps back, the ground beneath them started shifting ominously. Figures burst out from the soil, razor-sharp fangs glinting, each one as large as a lion. They were second-tier rot rats, and not just one or two. Over 20 of them had silently crept to the back of the camp, cutting off the way back to safety long before the group had even begun assembling. Now they were trapped, beast tide raging ahead, ambush behind. Qing Yun wasted no time. His two summoned forces, Bloodwind and Blackwater, lunged forward. Machetes tore through the horde while Blackwater transformed into water arrows, punching through the creatures like a relentless rainstorm. Nearly half the rats were down in the first wave. But as one group was slain, more burrowed up from the ground, replacing them. Head left, Qing Yun yelled sharply. The leading instructor rallied his 40-plus students, steering them toward the left flank. Beast tide is 1,000 meters away, Huang Yu called down from her vantage point atop the trees. The group broke into an all-out sprint, the tension so thick that no one dared to speak. Even their breathing was subdued, every gasp controlled. Running in sync with Jiang Ping, Wei Lin's voice trembled as he whispered, "Are we going to die?" "Shut up," Jiang Ping snapped, but his heart sank. He wasn't naive. Beast tides were not something individuals could fight against. If the tide caught up, there wouldn't be survivors. 600 meters. 500. 400. Huang Yu's updates cut through the silence like a countdown to doom, each number sharper than the last. Jiang Ping ran with everything he had, his mind racing as adrenaline pumped through his veins. He did have an ace up his sleeve, a summoning skill called Spirit Bond, which allowed him to make contracts with beasts. The problem was, he had been holding out for a high-tier beast, like a second or third-tier one, rather than wasting energy on weaker creatures. Now, he suspected there were no shortages of second-tier beasts in this chaos. 300. And then, as if on cue, for figures from the Academy's execution team stopped without hesitation. The second Huang Yu yelled, 100 meters. Those four were already pivoting, charging straight toward the thundering beast tide. It was a stark and sacrificial image, for silhouettes plunging against the tide of destruction, sprinting towards the deafening roars. "Don't look back." Instructor Du roared at the students, veering to the side. A fiery explosion erupted behind them, lighting up the dense forest with an angry red glow. No one dared to stop. No one dared to glance back. They all knew. Those four weren't trying to stop the tide, they were buying time. However long that might be. 3 minutes. 1,500 meters. The students finally passed into the stone forest, a natural maze of towering rock formations. Instructor Du stayed behind at the entrance, slamming his palm into the earth. With a thunderous rumble, walls of earth rose behind him, forming barricades to separate the chasing beasts from the stone forest. Not stopping there, he infused energy into one of the nearby rocks. Suddenly, the entire forest lit up, and fire erupted from each stone pillar, shooting blazing columns into the advancing horde. This was the Yin Yu offensive array, a protective ward specifically set up by Huaihai Academy for emergencies exactly like this. But the beast tide didn't stop completely. It had simply split. Dozens of beasts bypassed the barriers, streaming through alternate paths to stay on the students' trail. For another grueling 5 minutes, there were no explosions, no growls, just the pounding of footsteps and labored breathing. But gradually, the running rhythm faltered. Some students stumbled, then stopped outright. Wei Lin was the first to collapse. Then Zhao Mei. The trickle turned into a wave as more and more bodies gave out. All of them had lost the tenuous grip they had on their strength. Muscles locked. Legs turned into dead weight. Just standing felt impossible. "We can't stop. We need to notify the academy," Yin Yu urged, her voice shaking but firm. "If we don't, the teacher's sacrifice will mean nothing." She was right, but her words felt like pebbles thrown against a boulder. Her own forehead was drenched in sweat, betraying her limits. It was Jiang Ping who moved first, silently pulling Wei Lin to his feet and slinging an arm over his shoulder. That small action spurred the rest. Zhao Mei suddenly remembered she had basic healing abilities. A soft, bluish glow radiated from her palms, enveloping those nearby. It didn't erase the exhaustion completely, but it did lighten the burden enough for movement. Other water element students quickly followed her example, casting supportive spells that eased the group's most debilitating fatigue. But just as a fragile rhythm began to form again, a chilling roar echoed through the forest. The rot wolves had caught up. Above them, a few winged beasts circled low, their sharp cries signaling to their ground-bound allies. First tier, second tier, it didn't matter. These creatures were fast, and this time, there was no one left to stop them. A blood-curdling scream broke the damp air. Someone at the rear had been bitten. The horrifying sounds of snarling and flesh-tearing followed. Up front, where Jiang Ping and 3 others led, chaos reigned. The noise behind them grew more erratic, each footfall sounding weaker. Suddenly, a gust of violent wind surged from the side. Massive figures emerged from all directions. They were completely surrounded. In front of them stood storm hawks, their sleek forms brimming with energy. Behind, the rot wolves lurked closer. On the left, the forest was blocked by more beasts, and to the right, a sheer cliff loomed. A rushing river churned at the cliff's base, and the skies above it swarmed with more storm hawks. They had no escape. Jiang Ping did a quick scan of the situation, heart pounding. The most immediate threat loomed ahead. For Storm Hawks, mid-level first-tier beasts. Airborne enemies, as these were notoriously hard to fight. You three distract three of them, Jiang Ping commanded, his voice cold and determined. I'll take care of the fourth one. Make it quick so we can regroup. Yin Yu didn't hesitate, nodding firmly. No time for arguments or complaints. At that moment, a system notification flashed in Jiang Ping's mind, offering a mission, reward of 100 energy points, and one lucky draw opportunity. For any other time, such a thing tremblingly hinted at. At this point, Jiang Ping might usually curse this stingy system a few times, but now, he didn't even spare it a glance. He pulled out the short blade strapped to his back and charged forward without hesitation. Yin Yu and Wei Lin acted at the same time. A water chain and vines locked down three of the Storm Hawks. Jiang Ping, on his side, faced off against one that flapped its massive wings. The powerful wind it generated surged toward him, pressing with overwhelming force. For most others, this move alone would likely throw off their rhythm. But Jiang Ping had activated his Sharingan. In his eyes, the movement of the Storm Hawk's wings, the direction of the wind, and even every tiny blind spot in its assault were crystal clear. What he saw wasn't an impenetrable wall of wind, but a mesh-like web with exploitable gaps. Lowering his body, he darted into one of those windless pockets, speeding directly toward the bird. The Storm Hawk reacted swiftly as well, raising a talon and slashing down with sharp claws aimed straight at him. Jiang Ping's Sharingan locked onto the movement, analyzing it frame by frame like a slowed-down video. He rolled his body forward just in time, feeling the claws miss him by a mere inch as they grazed the space where his back had just been. Now, he was directly in front of the hawk. The Storm Hawk's feathers were like steel plates. Ordinary blades wouldn't stand a chance at cutting through. But under the Sharingan, Jiang Ping had already spotted its weak point, a spot on its neck no wider than his palm. Gripping the hilt of his half-meter-long blade with both hands, he drove it straight into the vulnerable spot. One strike. Fatal. As the Storm Hawk crumpled, Jiang Ping turned back to assess the situation just in time to notice that Yin Yu had sent one of her water chains over to help. Even while maintaining control over the Storm Hawk she was already handling. Meanwhile, Wei Lin and Zhao Mei were struggling to hold off their own adversary, barely managing to stay afloat. Jiang Ping didn't waste any time. Pressing his palms together, he activated Wood Release, exploding spear tree. Thick tree roots burst out of the ground, ensnaring the Storm Hawk attacking Wei Lin. Jiang Ping dashed over, swiftly striking the hawk's throat to finish it off. On the other side, Yin Yu unleashed a razor-sharp water blade, cleanly severing the last hawk's neck. For Storm Hawks, all exterminated. But Jiang Ping felt no relief. He scanned the battlefield. The Special Task Unit, Class 3, 40 members strong, had already suffered nearly 50% casualties. Meanwhile, the decaying wolf pack on the other side had only lost fewer than 10. And all this was merely the effort of Tier 1 decay wolves. On the edge of the forest, several Tier 2 decay wolves remained motionless, patiently holding their positions. High above, a handful of Tier 2 Storm Hawks circled lazily, never diving to attack even once from the start of the skirmish. They didn't need to rush. The Tier 1 beasts were more than enough for this hunt. The Tier 2s were merely standing by, waiting for the Tier 1s to completely exhaust their prey. A deep growl echoed from the depths of the forest, like some dark command signaling the start of true trouble. The beasts didn't scatter. This was the real nightmare. Jiang Ping sat astride a subdued Tier 2 Storm Hawk, glancing down at the chaos below. The decaying wolf pack and distant beast tied. They were all giving chase. It wasn't a panic-driven frenzy, but a deliberate pursuit, following in their exact direction. Above them, a dozen Tier 1 Storm Hawks kept pace, always staying just on their heels but refusing to back off. Yin Yu's voice cut through the tension, calm but ice-cold enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. It feels like they're all after us. Jiang Ping didn't reply. He already knew. But he had no energy left to dwell on it. Just moments ago, he had poured the last of his spiritual energy into his Sharingan, gambling his life in the process. The situation had been utterly desperate by then. The encirclement closed in from all sides, the decaying wolf pack filling every gap. a fellow squad member with elephant-like bracing abilities, capable of tanking head-on assaults from Tier 1 beasts, had been dragged into the wolves. Within 15 seconds, he was torn to shreds, nothing left but pieces. No suspense, no way out. He was gone, just like that. The remaining team members were running dangerously low on spiritual energy. The circle was tightening further, and it was only a matter of time before someone else met the same end. Yin Yu had chosen the riskiest of options. Golden light emanated from her body. Not ordinary spiritual energy, but something sacred, something that caused the beasts to instinctively recoil. The decaying wolf pack hesitated, opening a narrow path amidst their ranks. The golden light carved out a passage just wide enough for escape, and without questioning it, Jiang Ping shoved Wei Lin and Zhao Mei forward, shouting for everyone to run as fast as they could. Yin Yu, however, had to stay still to maintain the light. The golden glow lasted less than 10 seconds before it began to fade. Jiang Ping was about to escape, but glanced back and froze. He could leave strangers behind without a second thought, but he couldn't watch Yin Yu get overtaken and torn apart by the approaching beasts. He grabbed her by the hand and yanked her along with him. The golden light instantly collapsed. The beasts surged forward once again. Yin Yu stumbled as she ran, barely holding up. Her spiritual energy was completely drained, and her face had turned deathly pale. "Without the sacred light, we can't outrun them," she muttered. "Run as far as you can," Jiang Ping replied. Then, directly ahead of them, a Tier 2 Stormhawk appeared. It dove toward them, moving faster than the wolves and angling to block their path completely. Behind them was the horde of beasts. In front was the hawk, both sides closing in for the kill. Jiang Ping gritted his teeth and made what, to onlookers, was a suicidal decision. He leapt forward, charging at the hawk head-on, pouring the very last bit of his spiritual energy into Sharingan illusions. As the Tier 2 Storm Hawk closed the distance to a mere meter, something shifted in its gaze. Its pupils transformed into the unmistakable form of the Sharingan. The illusion took hold. In the next moment, the Tier 2 Storm Hawk adjusted its trajectory, lowering its body to the ground and catching the two of them mid-air. Then, with a powerful beat of its wings, it shot upward, scattering the approaching wolf pack with a sudden gust of wind. From the hawk's back, Yin Yu finally turned around to look down at the chaos below. After a long pause, she asked, "How did you manage that?" Jiang Ping, too exhausted to even maintain the Sharingan, letting his eyes revert to their normal dark hue, replied simply, "How doesn't matter. What matters is, we're not out of this yet." And he wasn't wrong. The Tier 1 Storm Hawks couldn't match the speed of a Tier 2, so they had temporarily lost them. The ground beasts had also fallen behind. By logic, they should now have an opening. But the beasts hadn't stopped. They were still following, no matter which way the hawk flew. Wherever the wave of beasts surged, the swarms of Tier 1 sky eagles above followed relentlessly, as if something was anchoring every beast's attention solely onto them. Jiang Ping kept a wary eye on the pursuing beasts from afar, sensing that something was oddly amiss. This wasn't a normal chase. It felt more deliberate, far more calculated, like some invisible force was guiding the beast straight toward them. Soon, his spiritual energy was almost entirely drained. The Tier 2 Storm Eagle beneath him, held together by his illusion magic, was nearing its limit. Yet, the hunters still hadn't given up the chase. The real trouble was only beginning. He had thought they were out of the woods. With the beasts now focused entirely on pursuing him, Wei Lin's group had caught a break and eased their pressure. Exhausted, Jiang Ping collapsed onto the back of the Storm Eagle. He was running on fumes, barely able to keep himself in motion. Controlling a Tier 2 beast already pushed him to his limits, but as long as the Storm Eagle kept going, they had a chance. He changed course, not following Wei Lin and the others. Instead, he headed directly toward Huaihai City, taking the shortest route home. The beast horde was left behind, and for a fleeting moment, everything seemed to be heading toward a brighter outcome, until fiery silhouettes appeared ahead of them. These weren't storm eagles. They were twin-headed creatures with feathers that looked like they were ablaze, Tier 2 flame hawks. More alarmingly, each hawk carried a rider. Jiang Ping's tension eased momentarily. He thought they could be reinforcements from the academy. But before he could relax, Yin Yu's face darkened. Blaze sect. Jiang Ping didn't have time to ask what those words meant before the answer came in the form of action. One of the riders raised a single finger, and without any warning, a thin, piercing beam of fire shot directly at them. Yin Yu stepped forward, activating a golden holy shield of light. The flame laser collided with it, refusing to dissipate. Instead, it clung to the shield like molten lava, slowly corroding its surface. Before they could catch their breath, several other riders attacked simultaneously, sending a barrage of beams that shattered the shield in an instant. One of the beams slipped through, heading straight for Yin Yu's chest. She didn't have time to react. Jiang Ping dove in, tackling her to the ground, narrowly avoiding the beam as it seared past. It struck a Tier 1 storm eagle behind them, incinerating it to ash in an instant. No warning, no demands, pure hostility. Their enemies had one goal: to kill. Jiang Ping slapped the storm eagle beneath him, urging it to turn and flee. The flame hawks chased after them, their attacks growing fiercer. In the dark sky, streaks of fire crossed back and forth like whips of destruction. Eventually, one found its mark, striking the storm eagle's wing. Flames spread quickly, consuming it almost entirely. The bird lost control and began plummeting toward the earth. They jumped. The landing was rough. Jiang Ping hauled Yin Yu to her feet, but she was barely holding on. After executing her holy abilities twice in rapid succession, she was pale and utterly drained. Her legs dragged behind her, making Jiang Ping practically drag her forward as they desperately fled. Not that he was in much better shape. His own spiritual energy was virtually depleted, and even opening his Sharingan felt beyond reach. No abilities left. No plan. Just survival instincts. Fiery shadows descended from the sky, circling them. They were surrounded. For the first time, Jiang Ping got a clear view of their faces, expressionless and cold, both men and women. Their foreheads were all marked with identical flame insignias, faint red and burning like embers. Two people. No energy. No escape. Completely cornered by a group whose names they didn't even know. The pain was undeniable. When Jiang Ping opened his eyes again, his first reaction wasn't relief at being alive. It was pure irritation. His entire body felt like it had been disassembled and crudely put back together. Every slight movement sent stabbing, searing pain through him. He stared blankly at the familiar ceiling above him, his mind slowly piecing events together. Beast horde. The ambush. Those humans who fired without hesitation. And then the thunderous lightning storm that followed. His father, Jiang Lei, had shown up in the nick of time, snapping his fingers to unleash a bolt of lightning that incinerated the Tier 2 Flame Hawk riders and their mounts in a single strike. That had been the last thing Jiang Ping remembered before collapsing. He had survived. But before he could dwell on his state, a notification sound rang out, cutting through his thought. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the mission, escaping the siege. Reward: 100 energy points and 1 spin of the prize wheel. Jiang Ping bolted upright in an instant. As the prize wheel materialized before him, he took a quick glance at the rewards: Flying Thunder God Technique, Multi-Shadow Clone Jutsu, Mangekyo Sharingan, Sage Mode. They were all game changers, each one capable of completely redefining the battlefield. Normally, a spin on this wheel would cost 5,000 energy points, but today, a beautiful, free label was plastered across it. He took a deep breath, steadied his hand, and tapped the start button. The pointer began spinning rapidly. Moments like this had a way of making anyone superstitious. Jiang Ping stared intently at the pointer as it whirled around, silently praying, asterisk, just don't land on the Reaper death seal. Anything but that, please. Asterisk. The spinning slowed. The prize slots on the wheel were hidden beneath shimmering seals, making it impossible to know where it would land. Slowly, it came to a stop, and the seal on the chosen prize began to peel away bit by bit. First came a faint golden glow, then it grew brighter, radiating light so intense that Jiang Ping instinctively turned his head. Golden Legend. When he opened his eyes again, the words on the prize illuminated before him. Sage Mode. He leapt out of bed immediately, only to wince as his injuries forced him back down, clutching his torso in pain. But the triumphant grin on his face was utterly uncontainable. The system's voice continued with an explanation, each sentence hitting like a bombshell. This version of Sage Mode combined the energy systems of Mount Myaboku, Ryuchi Cave, and Shikatsu Forest, making it theoretically the most complete form of Sage Mode possible. It could be activated instantaneously, no meditative buildup required. Most importantly, it allowed for continuous absorption of natural energy during combat. Jiang Ping read that final line 3 times before it fully sank in. Fighting while recharging, a Sage Mode with theoretically infinite duration. Naruto had used this to take on pain. Hashirama used it to summon his thousand-armed Buddha, and both of them had only possessed single lineage versions. What he had now, it was all rolled into one. The wounds were still the same, the pain just as piercing. But at this moment, leaning against the bed frame, Jiang Ping's eyes told a completely different story. Some gaps can be gradually closed with hard work. But sometimes, all it takes is a lucky break, a single spin of the wheel, to leapfrog past them altogether. He glanced down at his current state, then thought of the people who had attacked him, not yet knowing their identities or the forces behind them. But starting now, everything had changed. The playing field was no longer the same. When Jiang Ping regained consciousness, the first sensation to hit him was pain. Not the sharp sting of wounds, but a dull, all-encompassing exhaustion. It felt like his entire body had been drained, every muscle in his limbs weighed down as if filled with lead. Staring blankly at the ceiling for a while, it finally clicked why he was in this state. He had overdrawn his spiritual energy. The life force stored in each of his cells had been utterly drained, leaving him hollow and battered. He thought he had only slept for a few hours. Then, the door flew open with a kick. His father, Zhang Lei, stood in the doorway and announced that he had been out for 2 whole days. 2 days. Jiang Ping froze for a second. No wonder his body ached as if he'd been run over by a truck. Their eyes met, and Zhang Lei strode over, patting Jiang Ping on both shoulders, left and right. His father was checking to make sure that he was alive, his bones intact. "If it hurts, that's a good sign," he said. A simple, blunt statement that carried more weight in its honesty than flowery words ever could. That's just how the man showed he cared, straightforward and with no frills. However, Jiang Ping noticed something fleeting in his father's eyes as he spoke. Zhang Lei mentioned that the school had filed their report. They noted that during the Beast Tide, Jiang Ping had developed a new way of using his wood element abilities, veering away from traditional paths. For someone with both wood manipulation and spiritual sight, 2 highly gifted yet seemingly limiting powers, this was no small achievement. While his father only said, "That's my son," the gravity in his tone was unmistakable. Both of them recognized it. Jiang Ping's strength had truly grown. When he finally opened his system panel, even he was shocked. His cultivation level had advanced from beginner tier 1 to intermediate tier 1, and his spiritual energy capacity had jumped from 100 to 200. This was the result of that life and death battle. In this world, the path to advancement was brutal but clear. You gained experience through combat, and the closer to death you came, the faster you grew. There were other ways, using rare spirit stones or beast cores, but the former were scarce, and the latter incredibly dangerous. Paths most wouldn't dare tread. Jiang Ping's choice was the original way, the most dangerous way, the one that took the highest toll. In the aftermath, he also had some time to figure out his new celestial mode. The ability allowed him to actively absorb natural energy from his surroundings to replenish spiritual power. This granted him a whole new level of sustained combat capability. Of course, there were limits. He could only absorb up to twice his spiritual energy capacity in a single session, or a current maximum of 300. It wasn't enough to summon apocalyptic forest techniques yet, but for someone at his level, it was more than enough to redefine the battlefield. When Jiang Ping asked about his teammates, Zhang Lei assured him that Yin Yu, Zhao Mei, and Wei Lin were all safe and had made it through. Jiang Ping exhaled with relief. But then, Zhang Lei paused, moving on to the overall casualty report. Special Class 3, their elite training group, had less than 20 survivors. Among the team were 4 mentoring members of the executive department and their homeroom teacher. The sentence broke off there. Whatever truth lay beyond that conjunction hung heavy in the air, unsaid but understood. By the time reinforcements had arrived, the teachers leading their group had already been lost. Jiang Ping didn't have the luxury of time to process sorrow. Those instructors had been alive just days earlier, yet now they were reduced to a memory, names on a list. What troubled him more, though, wasn't their sacrifice. It was the mysterious individuals who had appeared during the attack. The beast tide could be explained, but those figures riding flaming eagles, targeting both him and Yin Yu, now that was something that gnawed at him. His father's answer was vague at best. They were likely individuals expelled from the academy who had committed high-profile crimes and been exiled. In extreme cases, such people might even collaborate with the beasts. Whether or not these rogue factions had orchestrated the beast tide was still unclear. "We're investigating," Zhang Lei added with a shake of the head. Then he said something to close the matter for now. "This isn't something you need to worry about yet. Leave it to the academy." Jiang Ping didn't press further. Not because he wasn't concerned, but because his thoughts had already shifted elsewhere. As Zhang Lei turned to leave, Jiang Ping called out to him. "Do we still have any beast cores at home?" he asked. The question immediately put Zhang Lei on alert. His son, freshly out of a beast tide and barely clinging to life, wasn't asking for rest. He wanted beast cores. The father's first instinct was to flat out refuse. "Don't you even think about using beast cores to force an advancement," he warned. "It's dangerous, and you're not ready for it." Jiang Ping shook his head. "It's not for that. I need them for something else." When pressed about what something else meant, Jiang Ping didn't elaborate. Instead, he made an outrageous demand. "The higher the grade, the better. I'll take as many as you have." After a heated lecture, Zhang Lei reluctantly agreed, scaling the request down to 10 Tier 2 cores and 3 Tier 3 ones. Jiang Ping accepted instantly, without a moment of hesitation, as if afraid his father might change his mind. On their way to the storage room, Zhang Lei casually explained the basics of beast cores again. How, even after death, a beast's core retains its energy, whereas a human's power vanishes completely. That's why beast cores were so valuable, powering weapons, fortifying barriers, and, in rare cases, being absorbed to enhance abilities, though the latter was incredibly risky and frowned upon. At the door of the storage room, Zhang Lei stopped. Turning to face his son, he demanded, "Be honest. What exactly do you plan to do with these cores? Tell me the truth, or you won't see a single one." For a moment, Jiang Ping was silent. Then he answered, "I want to study a new ability," he said. The excuse rolled off his tongue too smoothly, almost rehearsed. Using beast cores to develop new powers? It was unprecedented, without precedent or evidence. Yet, the simplicity of the claim left Jiang Lei at a loss for words. Even more conveniently, it explained the origin of Jiang Ping's new wood-based techniques. The breakthrough was made using the demon cores. It killed two birds with one stone, flawlessly executed. Jiang Lei not only bought the story, but was also brimming with pride. He unlocked every hidden compartment in the storage room, boasting that his son was a genius, a true product of his bloodline. Then with a grand wave of his hand, he declared, he initially only planned to give him 10 second-tier and 3 third-tier demon cores. Now, he was giving them all. 20 second-tier and 5 third-tier demon cores, 25 in total, all went into Jiang Ping's pocket. But Jiang Ping wasn't about to let himself feel content just yet. After pocketing the cores, he casually posed another question. "Dad, why aren't there any 4th or 5th-tier demon cores?" That single comment almost made Jiang Lei explode on the spot. 5th-tier energy users don't exactly walk around with 5th-tier demon cores in their pockets. Those types of strategic resources had long since been handed over to the academy. What right did some 1st-tier runt have to even think about them? After getting chewed out thoroughly, Jiang Ping just grinned, grabbed his loot, and bolted. On his way downstairs, he didn't forget to order 3 dishes: sweet and sour ribs, braised pork with preserved vegetables, and stuffed tofu. The sound of his dad shouting faded further and further away. Once he was back in his room with the door shut, Jiang Ping handed over all 25 demon cores to the system. When the results came in, even he was a little stunned. 10 of the cores were low second tier, 5 middle second tier, another 5 high second tier, and the remaining 5 were low third tier. Converting them all, he gained a neat 6,100 energy points. Adding the small balance he'd slowly saved before, his total shot up to 6,300. It was the first time he'd ever seen such a number in his account. Without much hesitation, he opened the system shop and entered the mysterious discount zone. There were several items there he'd been eyeing for a long time. Flying Thunder God Technique, marked down to 5,000 energy points. Each use consumed 500 chi. Wood Release, Wood Golem Technique, priced at 1,000 energy points and requiring at least 1,000 chi to activate. Mangekyo Sharingan Susanoo, costing 3,000 energy, with a 500 chi activation fee and additional chi consumed per second during use. Scroll down further, and there was the Multi-Shadow Clone Technique. But here's the problem. 6,300 might sound like a lot. Yet lined up against these items, it wasn't nearly enough. And more problematic than that was his chi capacity. At just first-tier intermediate level, his chi reserves were incredibly limited. Even if he could afford the techniques, actually using them was another matter entirely. Some abilities weren't just a matter of cost. His current body couldn't handle them. Staring at the shop interface, Jiang Ping started to calculate. Which item should he buy first? How many could he afford? How much would he have left for emergencies after buying them? This simple math problem was a lot trickier than his father might have imagined. 6,300 energy points. It sounded significant, but the discounted shop was only open once. Miss it, and you missed your chance entirely. And it was a 90% discount. Flying Thunder God Technique, originally priced at 50,000 energy, was now available for just 5,000. Jiang Ping stared at that number for a long time, feeling a growing certainty almost akin to faith. Not buying it would be a crime. Flying Thunder God, Minato's signature move, the fourth Hokage's legendary skill that allowed him to dominate battlefields and earn the title Yellow Flash. Used properly, it was practically a guaranteed win. Losing a fight? No problem. You could always flee. Its true value wasn't solely in its offensive capabilities. It was a safety net. Gritting his teeth, he made the purchase. Then, he noticed a line of fine print in the system's description. 500 chi for one jump, within a 1,000-meter range. For every additional meter beyond 1,000, it's an extra 10 chi. As a first-tier intermediate, Jiang Ping's chi capacity capped at 200. Even if he activated Sage Mode and boosted it to 600, it would only barely be enough for one jump, maxing out at around 1,100 meters before he'd be completely drained and left helpless. Using this in battle? You'd jump out, run out of chi, and then, what's next? So this is why only the second and fourth Hokages ever mastered Flying Thunder God. It wasn't due to lack of interest, it's just that its energy demands were too steep for the average practitioner. Flying Thunder God wasn't just about spatial sensing. Its energy requirements were on a level most people couldn't even dream of meeting. For his current cultivation stage, the technique was essentially a high-value coupon, an investment he couldn't yet use. With 5,000 energy points gone, Jiang Ping was left with 1,300. He glanced back at what items were still available in the shop. Susanoo cost 3,000, leaving him 1,700 short, way out of reach. The Wood Golem technique was 1,000, but with a single activation consuming 1,000 chi, it was even less usable than Flying Thunder God right now, basically a pointless decoration. The Multi-Shadow Clone technique cost 500, seemingly the most affordable, except Jiang Ping wasn't Naruto. Shadow clones came with a dangerous drawback. All the fatigue and damage they endured would be transferred back to the original body upon dispersal. At his current level, creating even a few clones would leave him in shambles. Finally, his attention focused on another option, Wood Clone Technique. It cost 1,000 energy points and consumed 50 chi per clone. Compared to Shadow clones, Wood clones were significantly stronger in combat and far more resilient. More importantly, there was no feedback mechanism. Whatever happened to the Wood clones had nothing to do with the original. If an enemy encountered it for the first time, they'd almost certainly fail to distinguish the duplicate from the real deal. This was something he could actually use. He gritted his teeth and redeemed it. In less than 15 minutes, Jiang Ping had drained his 6,300 energy points down to just 300, walking away with only 2 new abilities. Staring at that balance, he felt a wave of dread, the kind that set your scalp tingling, like watching money evaporate. Flying Thunder God was currently useless. Wood Clone had just been unlocked. Susanoo was still miles out of reach. The discounted shop window had come and gone, and while he hadn't wasted any points on things he couldn't use, it was hard to find joy in the knowledge he'd made the right decisions under the circumstances. The sound of loud sneezing came from the kitchen, likely his dad, which he tuned out as ambient noise. The next day, Jiang Ping packed his bag and headed to school. School meant people. It meant assignments. It also meant that the skills he hadn't quite gotten the hang of yet would inevitably need to make their debut there. In the auxiliary classes classroom, there were noticeably fewer desks than before. It wasn't that people had left, it was that they were gone forever. When Jiang Ping returned, the classroom was still buzzing with voices. Everyone crowded around him, asking endless questions. How terrifying was the beast tide? Did he and Yin Yu really save so many people? And whether the rumors were true about whole classes from other divisions being wiped out. He responded with a smile, dismissing everything as no big deal, just a few minor wounds. But his eyes shifted ever so slightly, catching the rows of empty seats. That smile of his suddenly felt a lot harder to maintain. When Sun Shiyu walked in, she began reading out the casualty report, class by class. Class 1 of Special Division, 20 dead. Element Class 1, 18 dead. Special Division Class 3, 17 dead. With every number spoken, the classroom grew quieter. By the time she finally announced, Support Class suffered 11 losses this time. The room fell utterly silent. 11 lives. Jiang Ping counted the empty seats until the numbers matched the faces he remembered. In truth, he understood. Support roles were the weakest in combat within any team. When a beast tide hit, everyone scrambled to survive as best they could. Support members were left with the primary responsibility of protecting others while barely managing to keep themselves alive. When the front lines collapsed, and it became every person for themselves, those who couldn't run fast or fight hard were inevitably left behind. Jiang Ping's own squad, with its 4 members, wasn't exactly weak, and even then, they had nearly been entirely wiped out. How could others have fared much better? Sun Shiyu offered no words of comfort. She stood at the front of the room, looking at the students with their heads bowed low, and simply said, "If you want to survive, get stronger. Rest today. Tomorrow, we'll continue the mission." And with that, she stepped off the platform and left. At the doorway, she paused for a moment and called out 2 names. Yin Yu, Jiang Ping. Come with me. The 2 of them followed Sun Shiyu upstairs to the top floor, entering the principal's office on the 5th floor. As the door opened, Jiang Ping first saw Principal Wang Daochuan, followed by a man seated across from him, sipping tea leisurely, Jiang Lei. His father. 2 spirit stones, each the size of a thumbnail, rested on the principal's desk, their emerald hue shimmering like decorative knickknacks. But everyone present knew these weren't ornaments. Mid-grade spirit stones held the power to elevate even a first-level awakened ability user to the next tier. They were rare resources, and Huaihai Academy would never hand them out casually. The fact that Wang Daochuan had brought them out indicated just how significant this meeting was. However, the weight of the spirit stones also hinted at another truth. The bigger the reward, the bigger the trouble to follow. Jiang Ping had barely touched one of the stones when Wang Daochuan made things plain. Don't thank me just yet. These stones weren't earned by your previous performance. Take them now, and it comes with a new task. Of course, the mission wasn't overly complicated. This recent beast tide wasn't natural. They suspected someone was behind it, someone pulling strings. That someone was likely a former student expelled from the academy, and they needed someone to investigate. The principal gave them their target and the location, Shanghai City. Hearing this, Jiang Ping immediately connected the dots. During the recent beast tide, his father, Jiang Lei, had gone to Shanghai City to assist, dealing with a parallel beast tide that had erupted there. Once that crisis was resolved, Jiang Lei's team had returned, only for another tide to strike where Jiang Ping was. 2 neighboring cities experiencing back-to-back incidents. Chances were high that the mastermind responsible was still hiding in Shanghai City. When Jiang Lei mentioned Shanghai City, his expression darkened. His son had narrowly survived that last beast tide, and clearly, the grudge still burned in his heart. The mission's start time was anything but lenient. Immediately, members of the execution department were already waiting at the school gates. Jiang Ping wanted to roll his eyes. He'd barely healed, just got back, and now? Off again. From the moment you awakened your ability, this path was set for you. Wang Daochuan sipped his tea, speaking as though it was no big deal. As he refilled Zhang Lei's cup, he added with a smile, "The head of Shanghai Academy is a good friend of mine, and yours, Jiang Lei. Drop our names when you get there, and you'll have no trouble." That assurance? Hardly inspiring. Jiang Ping didn't argue. He turned and headed for the door. Yin Yu, ever composed, properly said her goodbyes before following him out. Inside the office, Wang Daochuan and Jiang Lei remained seated, as though the entire exchange had never happened. Two of Huaihai City's most powerful level 5 ability users, one a principal, the other a clan leader, clearly considered this send the kids out to hone their skills situation done and dusted. Jiang Ping left the principal's office without a complete grasp of the mission's true risks or scope. He knew teachers from the execution department would accompany them, that their goal was to identify the mastermind, and that this wasn't a simple death sentence mission. But what he didn't know was just how deep the traitor's influence ran, or what was waiting for them in Shanghai City. As he exited the room, Jiang Ping held the mid-grade spirit stone in his palm, weighing it lightly. The system buzzed in his head. Ding. Mission triggered. Investigate the cause of the beast tide. Mission reward. 500 energy points, 1 lottery spin. Facing the promise of rewards, Jiang Ping's interest in the task noticeably peaked. Whatever the academy had planned, the system's incentives packaged it a lot better, at least during the internship period. That's how the remuneration worked. You had to complete 10 tasks before you could earn the standard pay. The missions assigned by the system were unique, directly tying motivation to reward. A group of people climbed into a wooden carriage waiting at the gate. This was the primary mode of transportation in this world. The carriage's body was largely made of wood. Only the wheels were made of iron, and its power source wasn't oil or electricity. It was powered by a demon core. Yun Ming slotted a first-grade demon core into the groove at the front of the carriage. Spiritual energy flowed through the runes etched along the vehicle, and the wooden carriage started to move smoothly, steadily picking up speed. Their destination was Xiahai City, a journey that would take a full day and night. Jiang Ping settled into the carriage cabin without wasting time. A medium-grade spirit stone, its green color resembling a glistening emerald, rested in his palm. Spiritual energy seeped into him through every pore, surging directly toward his spiritual core. The sensation of fullness came almost immediately. The dense spiritual energy filled his core to the brim, quickly building up pressure from within. Ding! Congratulations, host, for reaching first-tier advanced. Spiritual energy limit increased to 300. Exhaling a slow breath, Jiang Ping reopened his eyes, only to find himself locking gazes with Yin Yu. Seated directly opposite him, she blinked at him with wide eyes. Caught in the act, her cheeks flushed slightly as she muttered in a small voice, "Can't I even take a look?" before hastily turning her head away. Jiang Ping didn't think much of it, and turned to gaze out of the window instead. But something about the moment felt odd, not unpleasant, just a peculiar kind of odd. The road ahead to Xiahai City was still long, and somewhere unknown, the enigmatic dark team had silently dispersed in all directions. The cause of the beast tide remained a lingering mystery. The carriage entered a dense forest, and roars erupted from both sides almost instantly. Jiang Ping pulled the window open and took just one glance before gripping the door frame tightly. Dense clusters of demon beasts, at least 200 or 300 of them, emerged on both sides of the forest, a mix of first and second grades, swarming toward the wooden carriage. This wasn't a coincidental encounter. They had driven right into the heart of the beast's most active hunting ground. Yun Ming, who hadn't glanced back once, calmly gripped the wheel with one hand, his voice as composed as if he were discussing dinner plans. "No big deal. Hold on, I'm speeding up." As the beasts lunged toward them, he swiftly removed the first-grade demon core from the energy slot and replaced it with a second-grade core. With a loud boom, the wooden carriage surged forward from 60 miles per hour to 120 in no time. The force pinned Jiang Ping against the wooden door, leaving him no time to react. The raging beasts clawed at empty air, missing the carriage entirely. By the time they attempted to pursue, even the dust trail left behind by the carriage had dissipated. "Teacher, have you always driven like this?" Jiang Ping asked, still catching his breath. Yun Ming glanced back, steering one-handed, and smiled faintly. All members of the operations division have excellent driving skills. Once you can head to the outer cities and take on missions alone, you'll understand. Being able to drive is a vital skill. Jiang Ping committed those words to memory, but his mind was still processing something else entirely. Just before encountering the beast horde, things had been relatively peaceful in the carriage. Yin Yu had been holding the medium-grade spirit stone given to her by the principal, but hadn't absorbed it immediately. She had been waiting, watching Jiang Ping absorb his own first to ensure there weren't any issues. Only when he was done did she grip her stone, a faint golden light radiating from her palm. The spirit stone dissolved completely in under 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Jiang Ping didn't want to mention how much time he had taken, but the gap in speed was clear. What surprised him even more was that the moment Yin Yu finished absorbing the spirit stone, her aura fluctuated briefly, and her cultivation also advanced to first-tier advanced. He still vividly remembered her performance during the last beast horde attack. Using her holy element alone, she had single-handedly subdued the entire situation. But what he couldn't figure out was why. If the holy element was so powerful, she rarely used it in ordinary situations. The answer, it turned out, was straightforward. The holy element derived its power from divine laws, which relied heavily on the sacred kingdom. 200 years ago, the sacred kingdom's capital closed itself off entirely, severing all external connections. As a result, much of the divine power linked to those laws became locked away. Outside the sacred kingdom's capital, the holy element's energy recovery was incredibly slow. Unless absolutely necessary, Yin Yu relied on her water element instead. The holy element was her trump card, a hidden weapon reserved for dire situations. The rise and fall of the sacred kingdom, why its capital sealed itself off, and what had occurred within. Jiang Ping had no intention of delving into all that. Those were troubles at the empire level, far removed from the mission he needed to complete. His focus was solely on the task at hand, when the mission would end, and when he could collect the rewards. But Yun Ming's last comment had left a lingering impression. Being able to drive is a vital skill. On the surface, it sounded simple. But in the context of being surrounded by 200 or 300 demon beasts moments earlier, the weight of those words was vastly different. It wasn't just a practical tip, it was a direct acknowledgement that, when sent out alone, survival would ultimately depend on it. When they arrived in Xiahai City, it wasn't quite what Jiang Ping had imagined. The city walls stood dozens of meters high, resembling a fortress. Yet, instead of being impenetrable, they were riddled with holes, both large and small, evidence of hurried patchwork repairs that were jarring to the eye. The base of the walls was uneven, littered with the enormous corpses of demon beasts that hadn't yet been completely cleared. The air was thick with the stench of decay. The recent beast tide had left unmistakable scars on the city. After confirming their purpose and verifying identity plaques, the guards at the gate cracked it open just enough for them to slip through. Inside the city, the streets were sparsely populated. The entire atmosphere felt crushingly oppressive. It wasn't the weariness of relaxation after a crisis, but the taut tension of barely surviving a catastrophe and struggling to catch a breath. Awaiting them just beyond the gate was a man named Lan Feng, a teacher from Xiahai Academy and an old acquaintance of Yunming. With a hearty smile, he exchanged pleasantries before leading them toward the academy. Xiahai City, being smaller than Huaihai City, also had a more modest academy. As they walked onto the grounds, the campus appeared deserted. A few students passed by and cast curious glances in their direction, but Jiang Ping was too preoccupied to care. His attention lingered instead on the city wall. Only a few days had passed since the beast tide, and the casualties hadn't even been fully tallied. Yet Xiahai Academy had taken the initiative to contact Huaihai Academy, requesting reinforcements to assist in an investigation, whatever this investigation entailed. It wouldn't be that simple. Principal Chun, a man in his 50s, was a bald and chubby fellow with a kind smile that seemed permanently etched on his face. His cheeks were so fleshy that his eyes were nearly invisible when he smiled. Shaking hands with him, Jiang Ping felt none of the intimidation or authority one might expect from a principal. Instead, Chen felt more like an easygoing, good-natured uncle. Yet, a man like him, Someone able to defend a city against a beast tide could never truly be just an ordinary, affable guy. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Yunming took the lead and got straight to the point. Principal Chun, our purpose here. The City of Sins. Lan Feng uttered those 4 words, but the look on Yunming's face said it all. This was a place not just anyone could waltz into. The story began with 2 cities being hit by consecutive beast tides, Huaihai City and Shanghai City. The attacks happened one after the other, with hardly any gap in between. Such frequency was abnormal. Beast tides weren't like bad weather. They didn't just randomly coincide. Someone was orchestrating this chaos. In fact, both cities' investigations had already reached the same conclusion. Shanghai City had taken the heavier blow. A 4th-tier beast tide descended upon them, dozens of 4th-rank beasts attacking simultaneously, to the point where the city's defenses had been on the verge of collapse. If Zhang Lei and his group hadn't arrived in time, the city would likely be in ruins right now. To put it into perspective, a 4th-tier beast tide meant devastation. Even the most powerful ability user in the city, currently at the 4th rank, would have to gamble their life just to stand against such attacks. Principal Chun provided a name, the Burning Flame. The moment Jiang Ping heard it, something inside him tensed up. The name wasn't unfamiliar. The last time they encountered a beast tide, a group of random individuals had attacked them out of nowhere. Yin Yu had later explained that those attackers were from the Burning Flame. Now that the investigation had directly linked the Burning Flame to the beast tides, and the Burning Flame's trail pointed straight to the City of Sins, the connection between the two became glaringly obvious. But the crux of the matter was this. What kind of place was the City of Sins? To put it simply, the Holy Empire had no jurisdiction there. In that city, there was no order, no laws. Humans, outlaws, and even beasts roamed freely. Everything was negotiable, and the only things that gave you leverage were your money and your power. Most of the city's residents were exiles, fugitives, or lawbreakers. Since the Burning Flame comprised such renegades, seeking them out in the City of Sins was the sole lead they had to follow. Yunming made an immediate decision. They would depart at once. Their wooden cart exited Shanghai City and traveled for nearly an hour. The landscape outside the window shifted gradually from dense forests to a vast desert. And then, on the horizon, the city came into view. The first thing Jiang Ping felt upon seeing it wasn't astonishment, it was chaos. In terms of size, the City of Sins wasn't even as large as Shanghai City. But its atmosphere, it was hard to describe. It was the kind of energy that threw you off balance, making your heartbeat quicken and your inner spiritual energy unsteady, as if you'd stepped into a field constantly disrupted by a chaotic force. Jiang Ping quickly gathered his focus, suppressing the unease within himself. He had never experienced anything like this before. Yunming calmly reminded him. The spiritual energy here is naturally chaotic. Stay vigilant once we're inside. Lan Feng glanced back at Jiang Ping and Yin Yu, a hint of genuine doubt in his voice. Are you sure it's a good idea to bring these 2 in? His concern wasn't about being overprotective, it was a practical judgment. In the City of Sins, no one played by the rules. Dropping 2 fresh academy graduates into such a setting was like throwing lambs to a pack of wolves. Yunming smirked faintly. He said he believed in his students. This was something they had to experience. Lan Feng shook his head but stayed quiet. Still, his unspoken words were clear. Risking the lives of 2 S-rank academy prodigies like this wasn't a decision to be taken lightly. If something happened, who would be held accountable? The city gates loomed ahead, and wooden carts from all directions converged toward the entrance. Jiang Ping fixed his gaze on the city's outline. The spiritual energy around him continued to falter. Within the city lay the Burning Flame, the truth behind the beast tides, and undoubtedly, trouble he had yet to grasp. And this time, they were willingly walking into it. Later, when Jiang Ping looked back on this moment, he would realize that the pair of fiery red eyes had already appeared. As they strolled along the winding streets toward the information exchange point, Jiang Ping had felt eyes on him. Turning sharply to look, he found nothing. Yin Yu had dismissed it as normal, saying they both stood out too much around here. Jiang Ping shook his head and kept walking. But it hadn't been his imagination. It was a hunter locking onto its prey. From the moment they stepped foot into the city, they were already being watched. The City of Sins didn't have any entry or exit controls, which was convenient in a way. Yunming drove their cart straight in. Teacher Lanfeng guided them casually through the winding alleys until they stopped outside a shabby wooden hut, the intelligence hub, known locally as the Nose-All. The place looked decrepit. Its owner sat with his hat pulled down, feigning sleep. But when Lanfeng tossed out 8 lower-grade spirit stones, the man's nose proved sharper than his eyes. He straightened abruptly, providing the information they sought. Members of the Burning Flame were hiding in the city's Western Sin district. It took only a few minutes. Simple and efficient. But trouble began the moment they left. Just as they stepped outside the Nose-All and had barely taken a few steps, a glowing geometric pattern appeared beneath Jiang Ping's feet. It was large, spreading so quickly he had no time to jump out of its range. The same was true for Yin Yu. Spatial magic. Those 2 words escaped Yunming's lips as he lunged forward. But he was too late. The magic array pulled them in without granting even a split second to react. The ground vanished beneath their feet, and the 2 of them plummeted into darkness. When Jiang Ping landed, his boots touched damp stone slabs. The air was cold and damp, water dripped from overhead, and faint, dim light emanated from 2 moonstones embedded in the walls. That weak light illuminated an unsettling sight, rows of torture instruments mounted on the stone walls. A dungeon. Jiang Ping steadied himself, drew his blade, and stood ready in a single fluid motion. The blade's tip aimed at the corner where the sound had come from. A figure was moving there in the shadows. 2 double S-ranked freshmen from Huaihai Academy? This is it. Doesn't look all that impressive to me. Soft light rose from the corner, illuminating a man clad in red. A distinctive flame-shaped mark rested in the center of his forehead, its sharp contours giving it the appearance of being branded into his skin. Burning Flame Clan. The last time during the Beast Tide incident, Jiang Ping had already familiarized himself with this marking. One glance, and he recognized it immediately. The man seemed to notice Jiang Ping's reaction and sighed helplessly. Our intel got leaked, huh? Looks like our failure at the Beast Tide didn't just cause loss, but also exposed our secrets. He paused, as if giving a self-introduction. From another corner, a second voice cut in. Qing Feng, that's the price you paid for being careless. Yin Yu turned sharply, locking onto the direction of the second voice. Another figure stepped forward, similarly dressed in red, the same flame-shaped mark on his forehead. He was about the same age as Qing Feng, but his cold expression was harsher. Qing Feng and Manhwaedit, 2 members of the Burning Flame clan, positioned themselves strategically, one on each side, effectively sealing off the space. No need for the chatter, Manhwaedit. Qing Feng turned to his companion. The target's here. What's the next move? Before Qing Feng could finish, the atmosphere in the basement suddenly shifted. It wasn't the temperature that changed, but something intangible, as if the light was distorting or the walls were subtly altering their position. An illusion. Jiang Ping instinctively realized this. One of these 2 was using illusion-based powers, and it had already begun. But what they didn't know was, deep within Jiang Ping's eyes, something started to move, slowly but deliberately. Manhwaedit relished pulling his targets into his crafted world, where he could watch them crumble before his very eyes. In his illusionary space, Manhwaedit was the absolute overlord. The blazing fire, the iron chains, even the cross, all under his command. Anyone dragged into it became his pawn. Resistance was futile, and cooperation was often forced. The ending? Always the same. This time, his target was Jiang Ping, son of the Jiang family from Huaihai City, double S-ranked, carrying valuable information in his mind. Qing Feng had already used his spatial abilities to trap the woman who was accompanying Jiang Ping, embedding her in the wall and isolating him. The entire process had taken less than 10 seconds. Now it was Manhwaedit's turn to take over, business as usual. Jiang Ping was bound by iron chains to a cross. Around him, flames raged like a relentless tide. Manhwaedit stood before him, spreading his arms, his face alight with genuine delight. This wasn't an act. He truly enjoyed the sensation, the feeling that the entire world was his and his alone. He explained the rules with slow, deliberate words. The damage in this space might be fake, but the mental strain would rebound tenfold. If one wanted their sanity intact, they'd cooperate. If not, He didn't mind taking his time. A first-rank advanced ability user, trapped in a third-rank illusionary space, Mingyue said while pulling a sword from the flames with a flick of his hand. Kid, you're out of options. Jiang Ping fell silent for a moment. Then he slowly raised his head. Take a good look, he said calmly, his tone void of emotion. Now tell me, who's really trapped? Mingyue froze, and in that brief moment, the scene began to distort and unravel. He looked down. Iron chains now bound his own wrists. Behind him, the coarse wood of a cross pressed against his back. Flames licked around him, their heat searing his skin. Jiang Ping stood before him now, holding the sword he'd conjured, his expression calm and impassive. The roles had reversed. Inside his own illusionary space, Mingyue had fallen into someone else's. This is impossible. Mingyue's mind raced. Even if Jiang Ping was also an illusion user, at best a first-rank advanced one, how could he gain the upper hand inside a third-rank illusionary world? This was supposed to be his domain. He controlled the very fabric of its reality. You're supposed to be wood type with clairvoyant abilities, aren't you? Mingyue stammered. Jiang Ping didn't answer. Instead, his eyes locked onto Mingyue. Scarlet irises. Within them, 3 black tomo rotated slowly, emanating an inexplicable and haunting aura. Those eyes. Mingyue had seen them earlier but dismissed them as unremarkable. Now he finally understood why they had felt so unnervingly out of place. Those are the Sharingan. Jiang Ping's voice was soft, each word with firm weight. A frog at the bottom of a well can never comprehend the vastness of the skies beyond. His gaze bore into Mingyue, who was now firmly ensnared in the illusion nightmarishly flipped on its head. Your illusions, when faced with these eyes, he paused, are nothing but the tricks of a clown. The soft, fatal sound of a blade plunging into a heart marked the quietest moment of the battle. Qingfeng let go of the knife's hilt as he watched Jiang Ping's body slowly collapse. 3-rank fire and spatial abilities against first-rank kids? This outcome had been written in stone from the start. Yin Yu froze. Her thoughts scrambled as her eyes fixated on the blade embedded in Jiang Ping's chest, struck right at the heart. Then Jiang Ping looked up, not with desperation or agony. He raised his head calmly, meeting Qingfeng's gaze as he extended a hand and struck Qingfeng. Qingfeng instinctively retreated, activating his spatial abilities on reflex, relocating to the furthest corner of the room. That strike hadn't felt powerful. In fact, he wasn't even certain why he dodged, but as he observed Jiang Ping, his brow furrowed. From the wound, the body began to transform, turning into wood. Piece by piece, flesh became fibers. Fibers hardened, becoming coarse and wooden until finally, the entire figure solidified into a rough-hewn log, the short dagger still embedded in it, standing upright like a marker. From the shadows, the real Jiang Ping stepped forward, pulling the dagger free from the wooden decoy. A clone, Qingfeng muttered, stunned for a full 2 seconds before managing to form the words. Clone abilities weren't uncommon. He'd seen them before. The problem was, he had been watching Jiang Ping the entire time. When did the switch happen? The spatial perception he prided himself on had never failed him before. So when had that wooden clone silently appeared in that precise spot? A sudden realization struck Qingfeng. Just moments ago, when Jiang Ping had charged forward, Yin Yu had used her water chains to bind his hands. In that split second, he activated his spatial ability to teleport, appearing right behind Jiang Ping. He had pinpointed Jiang Ping's exact location, grabbed his wrist with precision, disarmed him, and drove the blade into his chest. But the question gnawed at him. Was it really Jiang Ping that he had perceived? There was something unsettling, a chilling thought creeping into Qingfeng's mind as he pieced it together. If that wooden clone had been swapped in before he teleported, it meant that Jiang Ping had calculated every move ahead of time. He had predicted where Qingfeng would flash to, anticipated his move to grab the blade, and deliberately presented that opening. It wasn't that Jiang Ping left himself vulnerable. He had baited Qingfeng, setting a deliberate trap and luring him to step into it, to stab the wooden clone on his own. The real Jiang Ping? In that moment, he had already landed a strike on Qingfeng. Qingfeng glanced down at himself. No visible injuries, just the faint trace of a light palm strike. His spatial ability had allowed him to escape quickly cutting the contact short. Even so, he couldn't ignore the strange, sticky sensation lingering from that palm strike, like some form of mark had been plastered onto him. Jumping to conclusions wouldn't be wise. It's too early to say. Jiang Ping's voice was calm as he clutched the short dagger, its edge gleaming faintly under the soft light. Golden markings traced delicately along the corners of his eyes, glowing faintly as he maintained his so-called immortal mode. Qingfeng found himself reevaluating the boy standing before him, discarding the dismissive thoughts he had entertained earlier. This was the second time tonight that things had spiraled beyond Qingfeng's expectations. The first had been when Minghue, a third-stage illusion specialist, had fallen in defeat to a mere first-stage fighter, a happening he had initially chalked up as a fluke. But now, Qingfeng couldn't ignore the question gnawing at him. Just what sort of training had Jiang Lei's son undergone? And that mark, left from that earlier palm on Qingfeng's body, what on earth was its purpose? The sudden stab came so fast, Qingfeng hadn't even had time to react. As a spatial ability user, his sensitivity to spatial fluctuations was leagues ahead of most. Yet in that fleeting, nanosecond gap of hesitation, the dagger had already struck true. How do you have spatial abilities? Qingfeng's incredulous voice carried a deep shock that could not be masked. Someone of his stature and experience had seen many techniques across the spectrum of abilities, but Jiang Ping's sudden strike defied logic as he understood it. Pulling the blade out, Jiang Ping replied in an even tone. This technique is called Flying Thunder God. The wooden clone you fought left a mark on you earlier. No matter where you go, I can appear beside you in an instant. Qingfeng crumpled to the ground, his unblinking eyes frozen in permanent disbelief. The explanation was light and breezy, yet held explosive significance. That earlier palm from the wooden clone had planted the mark on Qingfeng, the true trap. Qingfeng, busy countering illusions and what he thought was a mere clone, had completely overlooked the deadliest move. A third-stage spatial ability user, brought down by a first stage. Just like that, Yin Yu hurried over, glancing between Qingfeng's lifeless body and the barely breathing Minghue lying nearby. Her expression flickered with disbelief. Spatial abilities and illusion abilities. Each was notoriously difficult to handle even in their third stages. Yet both had fallen here tonight, and both had fallen to Jiang Ping. Luck played a part, Jiang Ping remarked, downplaying his role. He didn't elaborate further, already turning his focus toward Minghue. This was the second ambush launched by the group known as the Scorching Fire Sect. Qingfeng's earlier words had been clear. Their intent wasn't theft, it wasn't intimidation. It was pure, cold-blooded murder. But why? Was their target the Huaihai Academy? Was it Jiang Ping himself? Did this have any tie to the name Jiang Lei? And were the recent beast waves that had ravaged Huaihai City and Xiaohai City connected to some unseen hand pulling the strings in the background? Somewhere in all of these questions was the truth, and Minghue might be the one holding the answers. Jiang Ping crouched down and casually slapped Minghue across the face a few times, waking him up. As soon as Minghue's eyes opened and scanned his surroundings, his expression hardened with realization. Tell me why your organization wants us dead. Who gave the order? Speak, and I'll grant you a painless end. Minghue's gaze drifted to Qingfeng's corpse. He remained silent for a few tense seconds before finally uttering, "Kill me if you want. I won't say a word." Jiang Ping didn't argue. His Sharingan eyes ignited with crimson brilliance, casting Minghue into a mental hell of illusions. Under the effects of the illusion, Minghue's resolve faltered, and he cracked out a few broken words. The order came from the organization. The targets are you two. Whose order? Who's your leader? It's. Before Minghue could finish, his face twisted in sudden agony. It wasn't Jiang Ping's illusion he was fighting now. It was something else. His eyes rolled back, a guttural grunt escaped his throat, and then his body stiffened. In the next moment, he collapsed lifelessly, devoid of any sign of struggle. Dead, not killed. He had been shut off, as if someone flipped a switch. Jiang Ping stood silently for a moment, piecing together what must have happened. It was clear now, a preset mental safeguard buried deep in Minghue's consciousness, a trap designed to activate the moment any restricted secrets were threatened. The program would dismantle his mind instantly, burying the truth with him. The implications were crystal clear. Whoever was behind this operation had no intention of sparing lives, nor of letting information slip, even at the cost of their own subordinates. The chance for answers died on the precipice of discovery. Jiang Ping shook his head slightly, his gaze landing once more on the two bodies now at his feet. Only one thing was certain. The Scorching Fire sect was the name whispered among the chaos. But as for the ghostly hand pulling their strings, the identity of their leader, that remained an enigma. What was clear now was that the Scorching Fire sect wasn't targeting just one of them. They were after both of them. This was something Jiang Ping hadn't anticipated. He had assumed that either he or Yin Yu was being targeted, with the other just caught in the crossfire. But reality proved to be far more complex. Their enemy was intentionally after both of them. What perplexed him even more was that they had never interacted with the Blazing Flame Syndicate before. Why would this organization go to such extremes, deploying people as powerful as Qing Feng and Minghua just to kill them? The answer to that question was still shrouded in mystery. But they first had to survive to even begin seeking answers. They continued along the narrow walkway of the underground sewage system. The stench was suffocating, and every few dozen meters, there was a rusty metal door. Behind each one lay nothing but empty darkness. After roughly 10 minutes of walking, the muffled sound of voices, accompanied by a quickening rhythm of footsteps, echoed from a nearby corner. It wasn't just one person, it sounded like a group, and they were coming their way. Jiang Ping wasted no time. He yanked open the nearest door, pulled Yin Yu inside, and quietly closed it behind them. The space was so cramped that the two couldn't even turn around. Yin Yu was caught off guard and almost entirely pressed against him. She instinctively tried to step back, but her back was already against the cold, metallic door. Retreat wasn't an option. Jiang Ping raised a hand to signal her to stay silent. The approaching footsteps grew louder, and the voices became clearer. I heard the boss sent Qing Feng and Minghua to hunt down those two targets. Wonder if they've already got them. Do they even need to wonder? Qing Feng's space-based abilities ensured those two couldn't even run. And Minghua's illusions? Come on, not even a high-tier ability user could guard against that. Those two kids didn't stand a chance. Still feels like they got off easy. The mission was such a walk in the park, and we didn't get to benefit from it. The voices passed by the door, moving further away. Inside, neither Jiang Ping nor Yin Yu dared to breathe too loudly, their tension nearly tangible. Only when the footsteps completely faded did they finally let out quiet sighs of relief. But leaving wasn't an option yet. The group outside was likely headed to the underground chamber they had just fled. It wouldn't take long for them to discover the bodies of Qing Feng and Minghua. When that happened, chaos would erupt, and the entire sewer system would become a suffocating trap. To make matters worse, these individuals seemed to be of the same caliber as Qing Feng and Minghua, highly capable ability users with sharp senses. If they ventured out prematurely, their presence would be revealed instantly. Their best bet was to wait. The small hideout was claustrophobic, forcing the two to stand face to face, so close they could feel the faint warmth of each other's breaths. When Jiang Ping whispered, his words brushed directly against her cheek. Yin Yu had nowhere to turn, no space to move, and could only remain utterly silent. In the stagnant air, amidst the overwhelming stench, there was a barely perceptible trace of a floral fragrance. The silence in such tight quarters was more unbearable than the danger outside. As they stayed packed into the narrow space, Yin Yu turned her face to the side. Jiang Ping didn't speak again. It was meant to be a simple plan: hide, wait it out, and leave once it was safe. But the longer they stayed, the more the mind began to wander in directions it shouldn't. He noticed the faint scent emanating from her, subtle and barely there, like a flower so delicate its fragrance was almost non-existent. And yet, it was impossible to ignore. And then things got awkward. Yin Yu stiffened, clearly aware of the change. Realizing it too late, her cheeks flushed a vivid red, creeping all the way to her neck. Jiang Ping tried to brush it off with a forced cough. "It's normal," he muttered dismissively, though even he found his words embarrassingly weak. "They've probably moved far enough away. Let's go," Jiang Ping said, reaching to push the door open. Just then, the sharp thud of something hitting metal sounded from outside. The loud clang of a heavy iron door slamming open reached their ears. The force behind it wasn't subtle. We're stuck doing this exhausting grunt work again. Well, what do you expect? We're low-level grunts. No point complaining. Let's just finish and get out of here. The voices, accompanied by steady footsteps and the sound of doors being opened and closed, drew closer and closer with unnerving precision. Jiang Ping and Yin Yu both held their breaths in tense anticipation. Each bang signaled another door opened, each one bringing them closer to discovery. Bang, bang, one door at a time. The next door would be theirs. There was no way out, no time to plan an escape. Jiang Ping's eyes sharpened as he activated his Sharingan. The moment the door creaked open, the two dashed out, deliberately colliding with the figures outside. The sudden impact threw the two from the blazing flame syndicate off balance, leaving them momentarily stunned. Before they could recover, two columns of water surged from the sewage channels, crashing directly into their faces. The goal wasn't to defeat them with water, but to force them backward. And being pushed back was all Jiang Ping needed. A short blade appeared in his hand, slicing through the air before plunging into the heart of one of their enemies from behind. The remaining opponent spun around with a growl, his abilities flaring to retaliate, only to lock eyes with Jiang Ping's crimson-red gaze. Just one look. That was all it took. The man froze in place as if invisible chains had fastened him from all sides. He couldn't move a muscle. Caught in Jiang Ping's illusion technique, the enemy was powerless. Jiang Ping stepped forward, his stare unrelenting as he spoke in a calculated and steady tone. "Everything you know, tell me." He then began extracting the man's memories. The process was quick. These low-level operatives didn't have protective countermeasures against such invasions. For someone of their rank, such advanced defenses were practically a luxury. Yet the results were underwhelming. The captured operatives had joined the Blazing Flame Syndicate less than a month ago. Neither of them had ever met their boss. They weren't even aware of Qing Feng and Mingyue's mission. Their role in the organization was relegated to menial, mindless tasks. They were clueless about the syndicate's deeper workings. The highest-ranking members they knew of had been Qing Feng and Mingyue, the very individuals Jiang Ping and Yin Yu had already eliminated. The trail went cold there. Standing beside the putrid water channel, Jiang Ping slowly deactivated his Sharingan. All the risks they had taken led to nothing but dead ends. The identity of the Blazing Flame Syndicate's leader, their motive for targeting them, and the truth behind the organization's inner workings, all of it remained unanswered. They would need to find someone higher up, someone closer to the core. But this operative? This operative was useless. He didn't even know where the syndicate's management operated, leaving Jiang Ping to question him in sheer frustration. Eventually, Jiang Ping discarded the unconscious body to the side. It was clear there was nothing else to gain. Now, they needed to get out. At that moment, something rolled out from the man's arms. A faint blue glow surrounded it, about the size of a fist, smooth and polished like some kind of gem. Cool to the touch, it felt different, peculiar in an unsettling way. Yin Yu cast a single glance at it before her brows knitted in a frown. It was a demon core stone. This object had a simple premise. By fusing demon cores of the same attribute, they could be compressed into a single stone. Its sole purpose was to grant humans abilities they weren't naturally born with. For instance, if you originally had fire-based powers, absorbing a wind attribute demon core stone would give you the foundational ability of wind as well. It might sound like a magical shortcut, the ultimate cheat, but there was a huge catch. The attributes granted by demon core stones were derived from the beasts and fundamentally incompatible with the abilities system of human superpowers. Superpowered individuals learned their skills by harmonizing their inner energy with the spirit energies inscribed in ability manuals. Demon core stones couldn't resonate with those manuals, so their attributes were unusable, untouchable, and stuck in limbo. For ordinary folks, these stones were utterly meaningless. But before Yin Yu could explain further, Jiang Ping had already turned and sprinted deeper into the sewer. He had made up his mind about something. The second door opened, revealing another one, a fiery red, fire attribute demon core stone sitting right there. At the third door, the fourth, and the fifth, it was the same. Every door hid a stone, wind, earth, lightning. Not one was missing. 5 attributes, completing the set of basic elemental powers. Jiang Ping couldn't guess what the Blazing Flame clan was planning by stashing these stones here, but honestly, he didn't care. He'd found exactly what he needed. Yin Yu rushed after him, ready to talk him out of it, but she was silenced by Jiang Ping's single phrase. How will we know unless we try? Without hesitation, Jiang Ping gathered all 5 stones, and as he ran, he activated his system to initiate absorption. A voice echoed in his mind. System notification, absorption complete. He now had access to 5 elemental attributes. At the same time, the system store unlocked the ability to exchange for 5 specific techniques: wind release, water release, fire release, earth release, and lightning release. Jiang Ping's gamble had paid off. Other superpowered individuals couldn't use these stones because they were shackled to the traditional pathways dictated by their ability manuals. But Jiang Ping was different. He had the system. Those rules didn't apply to him. What was useless junk to others was the master key in his hands. Not only was this venture not a loss, but it turned out to be a major win. Ahead, light appeared, signaling the exit. The two picked up their pace, dashing toward freedom. The searing heat of the desert hit them in the face as they emerged, finding themselves on the outskirts of the infamous wasteland and its nearby Sin City. Then, from both the front and rear, groups of people in red surged toward them. A dozen or so, closing in fast, surrounding them in a tight circle. Judging by their auras, each one of them was a level 2 ability user. From the center of the group, a bald man strode forward, clapping slowly, his tone steady and mocking. To take down our elites, Breeze and Moonlight, you've got some skill. No wonder you're from Huaihai Academy. Level 3. The bald man was a level 3 ability user. How long they had been lying in wait or tailing them didn't matter. What mattered was that this trap was set, and Jiang Ping and Yin Yu had walked right into the snare. Yin Yu pressed her back to Jiang Ping's, her body tense under the mounting pressure. A dozen level 2s, backed by a level 3. This was their most dangerous encounter yet. What do we do? She asked. I'll create an opening. You stay close to me, Jiang Ping replied. Before they could strategize further, the bald man raised his hand with ruthless composure. Kill them. As the command left his lips, the group surged in unison. Jiang Ping's Sharingan eyes flickered, and with a mere thought, he activated Sage Mode in an instant. 15 wooden clones sprang into action at once, each rushing into the fray. Jiang Ping had already drained every last ounce of spiritual energy Sage Mode could provide. It was all the buffer he could muster, a chance gained by exhausting himself to create an escape window that would last as long as possible. The clones held off the dozen level 2 attackers, giving Jiang Ping enough time to find a weak point in their defenses. He and Yin Yu darted through the gap, their eyes fixed on the freedom just beyond. But before they could break through, the bald man made his move. He didn't chase them, but instead raised his hand. Flames coalesced into needles, thin and lethal, and shot out in rapid succession toward the fleeing pair. The man was cautious. The deaths of his subordinates, Breeze and Moonlight, were still unexplained. He didn't plan to risk direct contact, opting instead for precise ranged attacks. Protective shields went up, but they couldn't block everything. Sand exploded into the air, creating a suffocating cloud of dust and grit. Jiang Ping knew they stood no chance in a long-range firefight against a level 3 ability user. Even using his Sharingan's Jinjutsu required getting close, but the bald man was careful to keep his distance. Every few seconds, another wave of laser-like flames cut through the air, forcing them into a desperate dance to avoid the searing beams. And then came the fireball. A massive orb of flame, 2 meters in diameter, emerged above the bald man's head. With an ominous hum, it locked onto Jiang Ping and Yin Yu and began its relentless pursuit. The two sprinted for their lives, but the fireball clung to them like a shadow, relentless and merciless. From ahead, another figure dashed into view. A single punch met the fireball. Boom. The fireball shattered on impact. Cloud clear and composed, Yun Ming adjusted his glasses, his sleeves half rolled up, an aura of quiet elegance radiating from his stance. He stared down the bald man with an expression of calm confidence. The bald man recognized Yun Ming as a teacher at Huaihai Academy. His face twisted into a sneer as he crouched low and kicked off the ground. His muscles swelled in seconds, expanding into something monstrous. Fur, thick and black, erupted from beneath his skin as his body transformed into something bear-like. A guttural beast growl emanated from deep within his chest. He was a level 3 beast transformation type. Yun Ming, unperturbed, took a step forward and casually rolled up his sleeves. The bald man swung a meaty fist down with full force. Two fists collided. Crack. The bone-breaking sound was sharp and unmistakable, accompanied by the grotesque sight of shattered bone piercing through flesh, splitting the skin, raw and bloody. A howl, torn from the depths of the bald man's chest, filled the air. That hulking bear-like form collapsed to its knees, completely incapacitated. Jiang Ping, stunned, stared at the scene before him, unable to immediately process it. The seemingly slender Yun Ming had met a fully transformed level 3 beast head-on, and not only survived but outright crushed the man's arm with a single punch. Who was the real one using beast-like strength here? The dozen subordinates heard their leader's pained screams. After finally dealing with the wooden clones, they rushed back, panic etched across their faces. One of them reached out to support the bald man, but the moment his fingers brushed the injured arm, the bald man roared in fresh agony. "Don't touch it. It's broken. Call for reinforcements." A flare gun shot out a fiery signal into the sewer depths. Yin Yu turned to Yun Ming and asked calmly, "Should we leave?" Yun Ming calmly rolled his sleeve back down. "We've finally found them. Let's wait and see how many more people they can call in." When the sandstorm settled, not a single enemy was left standing. Over a dozen third-tier espers and several second-tier espers were all lying on the ground, their blood soaking into the sand, turning it a deep crimson. The entire skirmish had lasted less than 30 seconds. Jiang Ping stood there, shocked, unable to process what had just happened. Yun Ming had thrown a single punch. The sand flew, blades flashed, and then it was all over. Even for a fourth-tier esper, this should not have been so effortless. Yun Ming turned around, wearing the same warm smile as if nothing had happened. Impressive, right? But don't misunderstand me. They weren't killed by me. Out of the haze of sand came several figures. Lan Feng and 4 other members of Huaihai Academy's execution squad, who had remained unseen until now. They had been lying in ambush the entire time, waiting for the Burning Flame crew to emerge from the sewers and for the sandstorm to block their vision before swiftly taking action. The disparity in capabilities, even among others of the same third tier, was staggering. The execution squad was trained for one purpose, and that purpose wasn't duels, it was killing. Out of all the foes, one had been spared. A bald-headed third-tier esper had been deliberately left alive and dragged in front of Yun Ming. One of his arms had been broken earlier in the fight. His face was ghostly pale, blood still trickling, his shirt soaked through with cold sweat. As Yun Ming squatted down in front of him, his tone remained calm and composed. "All right, talk. Why is the Burning Flame attacking students?" "No comment." "All right, let's try another question. Recently, anomalous beast tides have occurred in both Huaihai City and Xiaohai City. Your group has been spotted among the chaos. Are you involved with the beast tides?" "No comment." Yun Ming's smile faded. He didn't ask further questions. Instead, he grabbed the bald man's one uninjured arm and firmly took hold of one of his fingers. Snap! The agonized scream tore through the air. "Stubbornness won't help you," Yun Ming said, his tone still unervingly neutral as if he were explaining something trivial. He glanced at one of the execution squad members, Hong Feng, and gave a slight nod. Hong Feng stepped forward, her hands faintly glowing with a soft blue aura. She expertly used her healing ability to stop the bleeding, set the broken bones, and relieve the pain, all in just a few moments. Her healing skills were known to be among the best in the squad. Before the bald man could catch his breath, Yun Ming grabbed a second finger. "I'll give you one more chance." The bald man clenched his teeth, glaring at Yun Ming with defiance. "If you've got guts, kill me." "Oh, so you've got a backbone," Yun Ming said, almost with a hint of amusement. "Well, fingers are connected to the nerves, 10 of them, then toes if we run out of fingers. And if Hong Feng keeps patching you up, how long do you think we can keep this up?" Yun Ming delivered the line with the same mild demeanor as if lecturing in a classroom. The bald man fell silent, not out of resistance or resilience, but because he'd been terrified into submission. I'll tell you everything." Jiang Ping, watching from a safer distance, felt his back grow cold. Not from the blood-soaked bodies of the Burning Flame crew, but from the seemingly gentle Yuan Ming crouching on the ground, smiling warmly as he methodically broke someone's fingers. Once the bald man began talking, he revealed the kind of information that unnerved everyone present. Once the interrogation ended, however, what left people most uneasy wasn't the specific answers. It was how little the bald man actually knew. Who's the leader? He didn't know. Where's the leader? No clue. How did they orchestrate the beast tides? Absolutely no idea. Where are their other strongholds? Still a blank. The only thing he was sure of was this. Someone had ordered them to use the beast tides as cover to kill Jiang Ping and Yin Yu. It wasn't robbery. It wasn't an accidental fight. It was premeditated murder. For those two, specifically, just to achieve that goal, their organization hadn't even hesitated to unleash two beast tides, throwing an entire crime-riddled city into upheaval. 2 students. Enough to warrant using such chaotic events as a smokescreen. Jiang Ping couldn't wrap his head around the reasoning. Yuan Ming stood and said in a calm tone, "Thank you for your cooperation," before turning and taking a couple of steps away. Just as the bald man exhaled slightly in relief, a short knife flashed across his neck. Swift, clean, and merciless. No words, no hesitation. The execution squad never left loose ends. On the way back, the transport vehicle was uncharacteristically quiet. Lan Feng sat there frowning, summarizing their conclusion. The burning flame had indeed sparked the beast tides, and their target was specifically the 2 students. Their next step would be a deeper investigation into the organization. Yuan Ming, driving the vehicle, casually dropped a line of reassurance, saying that with the teachers on their side, figuring this out was only a matter of time. Yin Yu forced a faint smile. As for Jiang Ping, sitting in the back seat, his expression was contemplative rather than fearful, less about the attack itself and more curious about why the enemy was targeting them. Then, the system notification chimed. Mission complete. Investigate the cause of the beast tides. Reward: 500 energy points, 1 raffle spin. The cloud of apprehension in Jiang Ping's mind lifted instantly. Who cares about the burning flame leader or how the situation unfolds? That's all for later. Right now, there's only one thing that matters. The raffle. The system's initial reward pool appeared. Some of the prizes were ones Jiang Ping had already obtained before, but among the 6 remaining options, honestly, very few were top tier. Jiang Ping glanced over the list and clenched his teeth as he spent 100 energy points to refresh the pool. This time, luck was on his side. The prizes on the wheel elevated to a whole new level, and amongst the new options were the 8 tails, 9 tails, and the ghetto statue. Tailed beasts. Actual summonable tailed beasts. Landing on any one of those would skyrocket his combat ability to 5th-tier levels. He could practically dominate with that kind of power. Jiang Ping fixed his eyes on the spinning wheel and took a deep breath, letting it spin. The pointer whirred rapidly before stopping. On the Mangekyo Sharingan, base model. No tailed beast this time, but still, this result. He could still manage a smile. Kaleidoscope Sharingan, basic version, no special eye techniques. Greatly enhanced perception, mimicking ability, and illusion casting. Aura consumption double. Perception, mimicry, illusions. Combined, these 3 abilities meant that at an equal level of power, others' techniques would almost seem transparent to him. The price, however, was doubled aura consumption. Maintaining the eyes for long durations would be a problem, but for short bursts, they had the potential to be a true game changer. But the words, basic version, hinted at another question. Where's the advanced version? Jiang Ping lowered his head and looked at the reflection of his activated eyes in the water's surface, a pattern unmistakably resembling the kaleidoscope Sharingan. No special techniques came with it, just pure ocular power enhanced from the 3-tomo Sharingan. To put it nicely, it was a qualitative leap forward. But in more practical terms, it was like holding a beautifully crafted blade without a sharp edge. He recalled what had happened in the sewers, that moment when he had been just a few steps away from Mingyu, yet struggled to disable that illusion protection program. If he had these eyes back then, the outcome could have been different. But back then was gone, and the only hand he held now was the present. He would play it the best he could. Back at the Shanghai Academy, Yuan Ming reported his findings to the bald Dean Shun. The beast tide had been incited by the Blazing Flame sect. They had demonstrated an ability to collaborate with demon beasts, making them a force to be reckoned with. That was the part he chose to share. What he left out was that the Blazing Flame sect's real targets this time had been Jiang Ping and Yin Yu. Lan Feng knew, but Yun Ming hadn't clarified it outright. He wanted Shanghai Academy to see the Blazing Flame sect as a shared enemy, not just trouble concerning Huaihai Academy. That slight information gap could still be useful. Dean Shin frowned and nodded, mentioning they'd strengthen their defenses and keep a closer watch on the sect, especially after rebuilding the walls. A few polite exchanges later, the partnership was essentially wrapped up. Lan Feng escorted them to the city gate, bidding farewell with a hearty wave and a smile as if nothing had happened. The atmosphere inside the returning wooden carriage couldn't have been more different. For members of the execution division boarded alongside them, their faces covered with masks, uttering nothing. A faint trace of blood lingered around them, weighing down the enclosed space with an invisible pressure. Jiang Ping and Yin Yu sat on the same side without speaking, keeping to themselves and leaning on the wooden carriage walls. Thankfully, the tension didn't last long. Hong Feng, after holding back all day, finally leaped to the front and snatched the steering wheel, complaining that Yun Ming was driving far too slowly. She swapped in a second-tier Demon Core, cranking the speed from 60 miles per hour to 120 miles per hour, launching the carriage forward as if it had wings. With one person gone from the cabin, the remaining passengers sighed quietly in relief. Nightfall arrived, but the carriage didn't stop. Yun Ming and Hong Feng alternated driving up front, while the others rested in the back, each leaning against the walls. Sleep crept up on Jiang Ping as he closed his eyes, but after a short while, he felt a weight on his shoulder. It was Yin Yu, fast asleep, her head leaning against him. He didn't push her away. He maintained his position, glancing at her face, now relaxed and softened by sleep. A faint floral scent lingered in the air. Without thinking, he made a foolish move. He reached out and gently pinched her cheek. Yin Yu stirred lightly, brushing her head closer against him as she snugged in further. Jiang Ping quickly pulled his hand back, sitting stiffly and daring not to move again. At some point, he fell asleep as well. Right at dawn, Hong Feng shouted from the front, it was time to stop. Yin Yu slowly opened her eyes, realizing she had somehow reclined during the night, her head resting on Jiang Ping's lap. Her face instantly flushed red from embarrassment, and she quickly sat up, saying nothing. Jiang Ping, still groggy, greeted her with a casual, "Morning." Morning. They'd arrived at Huaihai Academy. Clapping his hands, Yun Ming declared the mission successfully completed and instructed everyone to rest until further notice for upcoming tasks. With that, the group dispersed. But some things didn't quietly settle, like the threat that still loomed. The Blazing Flame sect knew exactly who Jiang Ping and Yin Yu were. Returning to the academy didn't mean this danger had evaporated. As the dust of the beast tide began to settle, the deeper truth started to surface, and it was far uglier than anyone imagined. The execution division uncovered the orchestrator behind the back-to-back beast tides in two cities, a single organization known as the Blazing Flame sect. Their name wasn't widely recognized yet, but their actions were no small matter. When Principal Wang Daochuan heard the report, his startled reaction almost made him spit out his tea. But it wasn't their strength that shocked him. It was the reason for their attack. They had unleashed the beast tide specifically to kill Jiang Ping and Yin Yu. Not collateral damage, not a side effect. The targets had been deliberate. To murder two students, they had ignited massive beast attacks on two entire cities. This wasn't ordinary revenge or vendetta logic anymore. It was something rooted far deeper. Principal Wang immediately ordered the execution division to handle the Blazing Flame sect mercilessly, capture its members alive if possible, and if not, to eliminate them all. No exceptions. His judgment was that the sect's leader was likely a dissident expelled by the academy years ago, who now sought to destroy its future by snuffing out two S-tier prodigies. But they hadn't yet discovered the sect's leader, and that was the most pressing dilemma. When Jiang Ping arrived home, he casually mentioned the situation to his father. Jiang Lei's reaction was, "Oh, I see." Before returning to the book on abilities in his hands, Jiang Ping stared at him for 2 solid seconds. "Dad, I'm your son. Someone's trying to kill me, and that's all you have to say?" Jiang Lei put down his book, looking unimpressed. "Go ask around, and see how many people want me dead. If it's not 1,000, it's at least 800. Did you hear me complain about it? It wasn't baseless bragging. As one of Huaihai Academy's strongest fighters, Zhang Lei had eliminated countless dissidents over the years, accumulating more than his fair share of enemies. The reason he slept peacefully at night was simple. None of them combined were a match for him. But his statement triggered an idea in Jiang Ping's head. He asked, "Dad, the leader of the Blazing Flames sect, could it be that he's actually your enemy? Unable to defeat you, so he's taking it out on me?" Jiang Lei didn't respond, nor did he deny it. This theory felt far more straightforward than the idea of targeting the academy. If it were true, the Blazing Flames sect wasn't after Jiang Ping because of his strength, but because he was Jiang Lei's son. As for whether this theory was correct, there were no answers, for now. Jiang Lei, as a person, was the head of the most prominent family in Huaihai City. Yet, at home, his intensely pragmatic personality never failed to show itself. For a birthday gift, he repurposed an old box from last year. Inside, 10 medium-grade spirit stones and 15 mid-tier demon cores, neatly arranged. That was it. No cards, no fancy wrapping, not even a heartfelt birthday wish. But when Jiang Ping opened the box, his mind immediately started calculating. 10 medium-grade spirit stones, each worth 500 energy points, would total 5,000. 15 demon cores, 5 mid-tier, 10 high-tier, added up to 5,750. If exchanged, it would all amount to 10,750 energy points. Practically free with 0 tasks completed. For the first time, Jiang Ping honestly realized that the so-called life of a second-generation wealth inheritor actually had its perks. But then came the dilemma. Should he exchange the spirit stones? Demon cores had a singular purpose. Selling them made the most sense. Medium-grade spirit stones, however, were different. They could be directly absorbed by the body, converting into cultivation advancements, something that energy points could never replace. He still remembered the last time he used just one to achieve a notable breakthrough. After some consideration, Jiang Ping decided to keep the spirit stones. Energy points could always be earned later, but cultivation progress couldn't just be achieved by spending time alone. That very afternoon, he shut himself in and began the absorption process. At his current state, high-level stage 1, he needed 3 spirit stones to push into stage 2. Transitioning beyond each minor level in stage 2 would also require 3 stones each. So when all 10 were consumed, by the time he reopened his eyes, he had successfully reached advanced stage 2. In perspective, he had accomplished in an afternoon what typically took others 6 months to a year. Jiang Ping understood, though, that this was purely burning through family resources to speed up the process. The real challenges hadn't even begun. Stages 1 and 2 were fundamentally just numbers stacked through resources. With enough spirit stones, you could climb faster. There were no mysterious secrets to it. Stage 3, however, was a different story. Reaching stage 3 required more than just spiritual energy. It demanded real combat experience. Only by pushing oneself to the extreme under pressure could the opportunity for a breakthrough emerge. Data from Huaihai Academy showed that on average, students spent 2.5 years at stage 2 before achieving stage 3. No amount of resources could bypass those 2.5 years. Right now, Jiang Ping was at advanced stage 2. He had an entire, indeterminate stretch of road ahead before hitting that wall. With over 6,000 energy points in his account, Jiang Ping originally planned to make a big move. Last time, the mystical shop had offered him an incredible 90% discount, a memory so vivid it almost made him overconfident. He believed that as long as the discount was steep enough, even limited resources could help him secure treasures. Yet when the wheel spun this time, it stopped at 60% off. Not 90%, just 60%. The plan fell apart instantly. While 60% off wasn't terrible, the shop's available items this time were all high-tier goods: Amaterasu, Tsukuyami, Kimui, and Susanoo, each one priced in the tens of thousands of energy points even before the discount. After the discount, they were still way out of his budget. With 6,050 points in hand, the only items he could afford were Amaterasu, Tsukuyami, No Hands Healing, or a couple of wood-release techniques. And even then, not all of them together. He had to pick. In the end, he settled on 2. Amaterasu and no hands healing. One for offense and one for self-preservation, a practical balance. He added one more would-release technique, piercing roots, depleting his energy points to a mere 50. From 6,550 to 50, completely wiped out in one shopping spree. But what truly stood out was a system prompt that came with his purchase of Amaterasu. A prompt many would have missed while focusing on the S-tier, ultimate physical attack label. Below that, a restriction read, without evolving into eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Amaterasu can only be used 5 times. On the 6th attempt, the user will be plunged into eternal darkness. Not partial blindness, not stacking side effects, literal, irreversible blindness. This wasn't a minor obstacle to be resolved with time or resources. It was an unbending rule of this ability. 5 uses, and this ultimate trump card would turn into the most costly self-sabotage tool imaginable. Now, Jiang Ping not only wielded Amaterasu, but also carried its disquieting countdown. As for his overall ability, his system stats still painted an impressive picture. 18 years old, 600 spiritual energy, S-rank potential, dual bloodlines of would release and Sharingan, along with an extensive list of elemental powers spanning wind, water, earth, lightning, and fire. He had mastered Sage Mode and Flying Thunder God as well. Though his account was nearly drained, the person himself had well surpassed ordinary limits. The real unknown lay in when that 5-use restriction on Amaterasu would force its first appearance, and whether situations might compel him to waste 2 or 3 of those uses at the worst possible moments. That was the unpredictable suspense hanging over him. As dusk settled, Jiang Ping toyed one last time with his birthday haul, Amaterasu and his newly advanced Stage 2 rank, just shy of the next threshold. In this world, the starting point of one's awakening determined how far they could journey over the next decade. Being at advanced Stage 2 wasn't exactly groundbreaking, but at least it didn't slam any doors shut. Stretching lazily, he was just about to get out of bed when a knock came on the door. With Uncle Chun nowhere to be found, Jiang Ping had to answer it himself. At the door stood Yin Yu, dressed in a simple white dress with her hair tied back in a ponytail. She held a bouquet and smiled naturally, as if today's visit was no big deal. Behind her, Zhao Mei and Wei Lin peeked out from the corner, both shouting, "Happy birthday," in unison. Jiang Ping was genuinely caught off guard. He remembered. He hadn't mentioned anything about his birthday, but later found out that his father, Jiang Lei, had told everyone in advance. That was just Jiang Lei's style. The 3 of them stepped inside the house. Zhao Mei glanced around the living room and couldn't help but exclaim in amazement. Jiang Ping didn't explain, just poured some water and started preparing to cook. But, as luck would have it, Jiang Lei returned at that moment, saw there were 3 guests in the house, and promptly shooed Jiang Ping out of the kitchen, telling him to go entertain his classmates. Jiang Lei was well known in Huaihai City, and all of these young people were fully aware of his reputation. He was one of the 3 most powerful 5th-level ability users, a high-ranking leader in the operations department, and one of the protectors of the entire city. In other words, he was one of the few people at the very top in this precarious world. So when Yin Yu and the others sat down to greet him, their backs instinctively straightened, like students waiting for their teacher to speak. The food was quickly served. Jiang Lei even brought out a few bottles of 1000 cola from the storage room, a rare treat these days when luxury items were scarce and hard to come by. For an average family, such things were a rarity. They clinked glasses, sipped their drinks, and chatted about lighter topics. The atmosphere was warm and pleasant. Then, suddenly, Jiang Lei changed the topic and asked, "Have you gotten used to the missions outside?" The table went silent for a brief moment. It was like when you're halfway through a cheerful meal and an adult suddenly brings up report cards. Jiang Ping quickly responded, "It's okay, just pretty dangerous," trying to ease the mood. Jiang Lei, however, didn't stop there. He leveled his tone and uttered some real talk. This situation, he explained, wouldn't change for decades, maybe even centuries. While they had guidance and support now, there would eventually come a time when they'd have to face everything alone. By then, no one would be there to save them but themselves. Yin Yu and the others nodded in acknowledgement, staying silent. Jiang Ping shot a glare at his father. "This isn't school, you know." Jiang Lei chuckled, brushing it off, saying he might have overdone it. But he didn't actually stop and continued speaking, though his next words were conveniently cut off midway, as if the chapter itself wanted to leave people hanging. That unfinished thought held the real lesson of the evening. Later, as a night breeze stirred and the moon hung over Huaihai City, Jiang Ping and Yin Yu walked side by side through the nearly deserted streets. Truthfully, he hadn't planned to walk her home. It was his father who had not so gently encouraged him with a kick and even voiced his offer aloud, leaving him no choice but to follow through. After walking for a while, Yin Yu suddenly broke the silence with a question that caught him off guard. "Will you join the operations department?" Jiang Ping didn't rush to respond. Instead, he countered with, "How do you know I even qualify yet?" After all, he'd only just advanced to high-level Tier 2 today. It was a change he hadn't even had the chance to share with his father, let alone Yin Yu, who had been sitting at the dinner table earlier. Yet, she brought it up so casually, the fact he met the minimum requirements, as if she'd known long before he did. Yin Yu smiled faintly. "That's a secret." With just those brief words, she left no room for further questions. Jiang Ping didn't press, though he filed the incident away in his mind for later. For now, there was no clear answer to how she could have figured it out. Replaying the dinner conversation in his head, he realized something. His father's speech earlier might have seemed directed at the whole group, but really, it was meant for one person, M. In half a year, none of the others would reach mid-level Tier 2, but he had just surpassed that today, reaching high-level Tier 2. Those words weren't just random advice. They were specifically tailored to him. "What about you?" Jiang Ping asked her. "Will you join?" "I will," Yin Yu answered without hesitation. "Why?" Yin Yu didn't respond immediately. She kept walking, then suddenly stopped, tilting her head up to look at the moon overhead. The moonlight illuminated her side profile, making her appear calm and pure, almost like someone else entirely. After a few moments of silence, she lowered her gaze and looked straight at Jiang Ping, her expression earnest. "Because joining the operations department is the only real shot at changing this world. Changing the world." Coming from anyone else, Jiang Ping might have laughed it off as an idealistic cliché. But when Yin Yu said it, there was no pretension, no posturing. Her eyes reflected nothing but sincerity, and her voice carried the weight of someone who had made up her mind long ago. It didn't feel like a statement. It felt like she was confiding in him about her long-set purpose. Jiang Ping studied her face and didn't laugh. The walk back to Yin Yu's house passed pleasantly enough. They joked and laughed along the way. And just before entering her home, she even teased him, saying she hoped he'd join the operations department so he could look out for her in the future. Jiang Ping didn't think much of it at the time, just thought she had a fun sense of humor. But the instant he stepped back into his own house, he was met with Jiang Lei standing in front of him, wearing the smug look of a father who had just successfully sold off his son. In one hand, he held a stack of documents and gear. "Tomorrow, we're reporting to the operations department." Jiang Ping stood there, stunned. "When did I say I was joining the operations department?" "Your paperwork's already submitted, and the process is all done," Jiang Lei replied with complete composure, shoving the items forward. Classic move, taking action first and informing later. Jiang Ping wanted to argue, but barely had time to before Jiang Lei dropped the bombshell. Joining the operations department came with significant perks. Every mission would earn him 3 mid-grade spirit stones and 10 Tier 3 monster cores, just as a standard rate for trainees. Once he hit Tier 3 and became an official member, the compensation would increase even further. Jiang Ping weighed the pros and cons in about 2 seconds flat. "All right, fine. I'll join." Spirit stones and monster cores. They meant far more to him than any amount of talking ever would, so there was no point wasting breath. Jiang Lei, suddenly switching to a serious tone, said that the missions were dangerous and urged him to think it through. Jiang Ping rolled his eyes. "Seriously? You already filed the paperwork, and now you're telling me to think it through?" Caught in his own contradiction, Jiang Lei didn't even flinch. He handed over the items, a pristine white combat jacket with the operations department's insignia embroidered on the collar, a blood-red mark. 任何人应该会敲门。顿时，他的脸色冷了下来，一挥手，示意所有人安静。门外的敲击声仍然平稳，一下一下，不紧不慢。屋内陷入了一片寂静，空气仿佛都停滞了一瞬。鸡哥眼神一沉， 手掌挥下，低声命令道：准备防守。正当所有人悄无声息地摸向武器，亮起异能的同时，门突然被轻轻推开，没有一丝多余的力量。这瞬间让所有人的注意力仿佛被一只无形的手死死攥住。站在门口的是一个身材魁梧的人，面具下的神色看不清，但那冰冷之中透着凌厉的气场，笼罩了整个屋子。这是明云，叛逆者。他的声音低沉，如同雷鸣一般剪过这片狭小空间，周围空气瞬间紧绷到临界点。鸡哥眯了眯眼，冷笑一声：“你们是谁？知道来找我们意味着什么吗？”明云的回答简短而果断：“执行部。”鸡哥那冷笑僵住了，却很快恢复过来，瓮声说道：“淮海学院，则这里是神圣帝国的废墟。”不归你们管，你们的劣迹已经触及我们的底线。明云往前踏出一步，声音依旧平静却笃定：“今天是清算的时候。”话音未落，白熊从他身后走出，那壮硕的身躯明显比其他人更具威慑力。他并未说一句话，只是举起右拳，淡黄色的光芒瞬间从他前头上蔓延开来。与此同时，整个地面发出低沉的震响。鸡哥倒抽一口凉气，脸上逼出的冷汗暴露了他的真实情绪。就算是执行部，他咬着牙，提高音调：“我们也不会束手就擒。”我知道你不会。安静的房间里，明云的声音仿佛噩梦的低喃。且不等明云继续指挥，窗户碎裂声突兀地响起。是黄狼和黑蛇已经从两侧破窗而入，精准阻断了叛逆者的退路。江平和洪峰站在外围，他看着眼前这场战斗逐渐成型。谢月的面具隔着另一位配合对眼，尽管他是新手，但感受到每个人之间无缝衔接般的协调配合。他明白，这不是什么学院里的演习，这是真正的战斗。听好了，谢月，洪峰低声提醒：“我们把控节奏，别冲动。”明白了。江平的语气一如既往的平静，他目不转睛地盯着前方，木系的能力已经在掌心凝聚，而他那灵眼系的直觉也开始运作起来，疯狂接收着微妙的战场细节。屋内的打斗迅速开始。每个人按照既定的策略处理各自的对手。明云和白熊迅速解决门正面站位的两人，站在后排的那4个叛逆者试图从后窗逃跑，却被黄狼的幻术一直困住，失去了方向感。而剩下的鸡哥则成为了明云的直面目标。江平感到掌心的目光越发明亮，他的直觉告诉自己，战斗中的关键点正在靠近。鸡哥似乎有什么秘密的杀手锏尚未使出，而作为支援位，他有责任在对方暴起之前将局势进一步稳定。就在鸡哥怒吼着激发了他体内某种危险能量时，江平毫不迟疑，果断出手。木系的力量猛地化作藤蔓直冲屋内，缠绕住鸡哥的四肢，将他的动作锁死。屋内屋外的战斗很快有了定局，于规定时间内干净利落完成任务。明云拍了拍手里扣好的空间装置，那些叛逆者已经被稳稳控制在执行部的手中。恭喜大家配合出色。虽然这只是江平加入执行部的第一场任务，但他深刻体会到战斗的严酷和团队协作的重要。他内心没有波澜，而是悄悄下决心，这只是开始。他站在高墙之上，加入执行部那一刻所做的决定是不会终止的。Who's there? There's no way anyone would come here. He yanked back the pudgy man who was just about to open the door. He hadn't even finished speaking. The door was abruptly ripped apart from the outside, 2 hands smashing through the wood and tearing it completely off its frame. I told you I came in good faith. So why not open the door? Mingyun stood there in the doorway, his voice genuinely sounding puzzled. GGE's expression changed immediately when he recognized the emblem on the intruder's outfits, Huaikai Academy Enforcement Division, but he quickly steadied himself. Only 2 of them against his group of over 10? If it came down to a fight, the odds were still in their favor. As Bai Xiong stepped forward, the cracking sound of his joints echoed ominously. Silver arcs of electricity flickered over his body as he barreled straight into the crowd. Most of GGE's men were low-tier level 3, with a few mid-tier level 3s mixed in. Against Bai Xiong, a high-tier level 3, they were flattened almost instantly. On the other side of the room, a few men spotted Ming Yun's lanky frame and thought they'd found an easy target. Thinking him defenseless, they rushed toward him en masse. One by one, they hit the ground. Left hook, right hook, it didn't matter who came at him. They went down in a single hit. His moves were precise, deadly, and devoid of any wasted energy. GGE quickly realized an all-out frontal assault would lead straight to their demise. Yelling at his men, he ordered them to fall back and attack from a distance. That's when the walls exploded. A massive, snake-like black figure crashed through the side of the building. 3 puppets followed through the breach, blades in hand, taking down 3 men in an instant. *T, it's a trap. Before GG could finish the thought, the room turned into pure chaos. In the middle of the pandemonium, a fire user stood frozen in place. One question kept echoing in his mind. How could this man use his abilities? His fire techniques were unique, developed back in Huangshe City, a skill set exclusive to his arsenal. There was no way the enforcement division from Huaikai City could have learned them. Yet, the high-tier level 2 with the mask was replicating his techniques flawlessly. Even the color of the flames and their intensity were identical. As he unleashed a wave of fire, the masked man did the same. 2 torrents of crimson flames collided head-on, neutralizing each other completely in the middle of the room. 3 words burned into everyone's mind simultaneously: ability mimicry. Another of GGE's men, a water user, refused to believe it was possible. It had to be a coincidence. He summoned his signature move, the Divine Water Wolves, conjuring a pack of liquid wolves from the ground and sending them charging straight at Jiangping. Water beats fire. After all, this should end it quickly. But Jiangping mirrored him exactly. Performing the same intricate hand seals, he summoned an identical pack of water wolves. The 2 groups collided head-on, dissipating into nothingness. Silence. GG glanced at the 2 adversaries and finally decided to step in personally. He didn't believe for a second that his beast-type abilities could be mimicked. He lunged at Jiangping. Just as the distance between them closed to less than 10 meters, his body morphed. His frame expanded dramatically, his hands transformed into giant wings, and his mouth hardened into a razor-sharp beak. With all his weight behind him, he dove like an avian predator aiming to skewer his target. The stance brought to mind a very specific type of farm animal, and suddenly, GGE's nickname made sense. "Let's see you copy this," he snarled, his beak hurtling toward Jiangping. Jiangping didn't move. "You're right. That's one thing I can't copy. But Redwind could." Thick, gleaming chains of water shot through the air, binding GG mid-dive. He was left suspended, helplessly dangling like a trapped chicken. Jiangping unsheathed his blade, leapt forward, and with one swift strike, left a deep, bone-revealing gash across GG's chest. Redwind took charge of the remaining enemies. Forming another hand seal, she conjured 3 towering teal tornadoes, each 5 meters tall, sending the survivors scattering desperately. One of them narrowly dodged the whirlwind and prepared a counterattack, only for someone to suddenly materialize before him. It was the masked figure, eyes of vivid crimson beneath the face guard. The figure merely stared at him. Instantly, the enemy's consciousness disintegrated. This was not mimicry. This was illusion. Jiangping finished the dazed man with a swift, decisive slash before locking eyes with the fire user again. The fire user, having witnessed what just happened, couldn't suppress a rising wave of dread. He stumbled backward, shouting, "Fiery serpents," as he released a writhing mass of serpentine flames from his hands. This time, Jiangping didn't mimic him. Instead, she used the water wolves from the water user earlier. The pack burst through the flames, extinguishing the fire serpents one by one under their watery paws. The fire user cursed and scrambled to counter with a different move, until he saw Jiang Ping's hands forming the same seals again. It took only a heartbeat for him to realize the flames barreling back at him were his own technique. He had no choice but to meet fire with fire, barely managing to fend off the attack. Then it dawned on him. Jiang Ping wasn't just copying their abilities. She was simultaneously wielding multiple powers, seamlessly switching between water, fire, and whatever those terrifying red eyes were, while each of them was bound by their lone, single power. The truth hit him like a hammer. This ambush was never a fair fight. Gigi collapsed onto the floor, his gaze vacant. The open wound on his chest was still seeping blood. Ming Yun stood motionless, at a loss for words. It wasn't that he didn't want to say anything. It was that his mind hadn't caught up yet. In his years with the Enforcement Division, he'd seen all the interrogation methods in the book: torture, truth serums, sleepless 3-day marathons to extract a single line of intel. But this was a first. Jiang Ping had simply walked up to Gigi, stood silently for about 10 seconds, and the man spilled every secret he had, without so much as a twitch. "Captain, we're done here. Just one sentence. How did you do that?" Red Wind, the only one paying close enough attention, had noticed it. The moment Jiang Ping approached Gigi, something shifted behind her mask. Gigi's gaze had gone hollow, obedient, as if his will had been entirely drained. He had answered every question as if it was the most natural thing in the world. This wasn't an interrogation. It was opening floodgates. Gigi's confession was unsurprising in itself. A group of outcasts expelled from the academy, bitter and disgruntled, decided to hunt down first years as revenge. No master plan, no hidden higher-ups. Just vengeful misfits. Main ability was the manipulation of wind, making her the only aerial combatant among the team. Everyone naturally looked to her as the key player in this seemingly impossible battle. The weather hanging over the area wasn't helping their spirits either. A dense mist shrouded the bridge, and the chilling wind blew constantly, gnawing at their morale. Red Wind cracked her fingers, stepping forward with a confident smirk that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Well," she said, breaking the tense silence, "it's not the first time I've been the answer to everyone's problems." Lan Feng wasn't amused. "This isn't about showing off," he said curtly. "If you screw this up, no one else can back you up in the air. You don't exactly get retries here." Red Wind rolled her eyes, but understood the gravity of the situation. She knew as much as anyone else the kind of chaos a bloodbat swarm could wreak when left unchecked. "Relax, Captain Sirius. I've survived worse. What's the plan?" Lan Feng gestured to the others. "We'll be the ground support. Draw their attention upward. Keep the smaller ones distracted. You focus on the Bat King. Take it out, and the rest will scatter. Quick and clean. No heroics." "Got it, got it," Red Wind replied, though her tone was anything but serious. She glanced at Jiang Ping. "What about you, Mr. Mysterious? Going to pull out another new trick?" Jiang Ping's expression was as calm as ever, but his mind was already analyzing the situation fast. "Let me see how they move first. If their attack patterns align with typical bat behavior, I might be able to improvise something. But don't wait for me. Go full throttle from the start." "That was Jiang Ping for you," thought Ming Yun. Always calculating, always holding back just enough so no one could fully figure him out. Ming Yun hadn't fully wrapped his head around the revelations from earlier. 7 abilities? Copying powers? It made Jiang Ping a wild card in any situation, but also someone impossible to trust completely. The team moved to their positions, and Red Wind stepped onto the edge of the bridge, gazing down into the abyss. Her wings swirled around her, lifting her into the air like a bird taking flight. As she descended toward the dark nest below, the noise started, a low, guttural screech that made the hairs on the back of everyone's neck stand upright. The bloodbats had noticed her. It began with just a few of them, fluttering up from the massive hive underneath the bridge. But within moments, the entire group was awake, their shrill cries echoing throughout the canyon as they swarmed toward the intruder in their airspace. On the ground, the rest of the squad sprang into action. Lan Feng shouted orders, coordinating their formations as they launched attacks from below. Elemental bursts lit up the darkness like fleeting fireworks, creating temporary flashes of visibility in the inky gloom. Ming Yun kept one eye on Jiang Ping, who hung back slightly, observing the battle like a chessboard, his expression unreadable. He wasn't the type to waste energy or make flashy moves. That much Ming Yun had learned. Every action from Jiang Ping was deliberate, methodical, and almost too precise. But there was something unnerving about how calm he always seemed, as if his mind was operating on a level none of them could fathom. In the air, red wind was dancing through the chaos. Gusts of slicing wind tore through clusters of bats, sending their torn bodies plummeting to the abyss below. She moved like she belonged in the sky, her control over the air currents turning the fight into a deadly aerial ballet. But then came the king. The Bat King emerged from the nest with a monstrous roar, its wingspan eclipsing the smaller bats. Its crimson eyes locked onto Red Wind immediately, and with a shrill scream, it lunged at her, its massive form cutting through the air with terrifying speed. Red Wind barely dodged, the sheer force of its rush sending her spiraling off course momentarily. Regaining her balance, she narrowed her eyes, focusing entirely on the king now. This is it, she thought grimly. The faster I take you down, the faster this ends. Below, Jiang Ping's eyes flickered, his Sharingan-like ability activating as he observed the king's movements. Patterns began to emerge, the way its wings tilted during an attack, the slight delay in its leftward turns. He wasn't explicitly communicating his thoughts, but Ming Yun noticed the way Jiang Ping's hands subtly moved, preparing for something. Then it happened. A small group of bats broke through the defensive line on the ground, heading straight for the squad. Lan Feng and the others braced themselves, but before they could act, Jiang Ping stepped forward. His voice was calm but commanding. "Cover me for 5 seconds." Without waiting for confirmation, he leapt forward, his body glowing faintly as he summoned the stolen elemental powers he had painstakingly collected. Fire erupted in his hands first, followed by a sudden gust of wind, and then water and earth, all swirling together into an attack that mimicked the bat's own chaotic formations. The borrowed techniques weren't perfect, but they were enough to halt the incoming swarm, buying the team precious seconds to regroup. Ming Yun's jaw tightened as he watched, torn between awe and unease. Jiang Ping had just used 4 different elemental abilities in one seamless combination. Who even was this guy? Overhead, Red Wind had managed to gain the upper hand against the Bat King. Using the natural air currents and her expert timing, she dove past its ferocious claws, slashing its wings with razor-sharp bursts of wind. The creature screeched and flailed, but its movements were becoming slow and labored. One final attack, perfectly placed, sent the king plummeting into the darkness below. With the leader gone, the swarm quickly descended into disarray, scattering in all directions. The battle was over. As the team regrouped, Red Wind landed lightly on the bridge, her usually playful attitude replaced with quiet exhaustion. Jiang Ping, as expected, looked as calm as ever, though his sleeves were singed from his earlier maneuver. Lan Feng glanced at Jiang Ping, his expression unreadable. "You're full of surprises," he finally said. "But you'll have to share just how many surprises you've got sooner or later." Jiang Ping didn't respond, only offering a faint smile that revealed nothing. In his mind, he was already calculating the next move, because while this battle was over, the game they were all caught in had only just begun. Wind element abilities could create tangible walls of air mid-air, providing solid footholds for teammates. With her supporting their steps, power attackers like Ming Yun and Bai Xiong could punch freely in the sky. Without her, the team would fall apart like a house of cards. But that also meant she was the one person who couldn't afford to be distracted. She was their most critical weakness. When another squad successfully lured the Bloodwing bats with a fiery bombardment, the swarm shot out of their den like a crimson tidal wave. The team on the bridge instantly sprang into action. Ming Yun, leading a few others, leaped off the bridge, using the wind wall node's red wind created below to execute a clean and efficient first strike. Yet the Bloodwing Bat King didn't lose its cool. Among the chaos of flapping wings, a few bats bypassed the frontal assault entirely, heading straight for Red Wind, who stood on the bridge. "Blood Moon," Red Wind called out urgently, her voice low but anxious. She couldn't afford to pull her focus away. Both her hands were preoccupied maintaining numerous air walls. Even a momentary lapse would send the team plunging into the void below. Jiang Ping was already on the move. Taking a deep breath, he activated his sage mode, and his senses heightened dramatically. Time seemed to slow down. With a single powerful step off the ground, he shot into the air like a shadow, intercepting the lead bat in an instant. His short blade pierced straight through its neck, killing it in one hit. "Watch out, don't let the blood touch you." Red Wind's warning reached his ears, but it came a moment too late. The moment his blade punctured the bat's throat, a burst of dark red blood sprayed out, splattering all over Jiang Ping's arm. Almost immediately, an unusual sensation began spreading across his arm. The pair of third-tier blood bats following closely behind met their end just as quickly. The flying thunder god mark was already set in place. The kunai he threw was just a distraction. By the time the beasts realized it, Jiang Ping had already phased through one bat and emerged on the other side. The other bat met his crimson Sharingan gaze. Its resistance to illusions was minimal compared to other beings. And with Jiang Ping's overwhelming Sage Mode power, the Tier 3 bat couldn't even last a single exchange. The acidic wound on Jiang Ping's arm, caused by the bat's corrosive blood, silently healed itself as he withdrew his blade. While things appeared handled on his side, trouble loomed elsewhere. The real problem? The Bloodwing Bat King. A fourth-tier beast with a wingspan over 2 meters, capable of generating razor-sharp wind blades with just a casual flap. Even Ming Yun, their strongest team fighter, was forced back several meters after taking just one hit. The Bat King then swiftly shifted its focus. Its target? Red Wind. The logic was simple. Red Wind was the linchpin of their aerial maneuvers. If she fell, the entire team would lose their foothold, and the battle would quickly spiral into catastrophe. The Bloodwing Bat King wasn't dumb. It knew exactly who to take down. Meanwhile, nearly a dozen third-tier bats swarmed Ming Yun's group, trapping them in a relentless battle. Lanfeng's fireball and wind combo attacks were effortlessly countered. The Bat King's wing beats turned the flames into twin fiery tornadoes, hurling them right back at the team. Blocking its path? Not an option. That's when Jiang Ping stepped forward. He held his short blade tightly, positioning himself directly in front of Red Wind. His mission was clear: protect her at all costs. There was no other choice. As the Bat King dove, Jiang Ping chose to meet it head-on. In the predator's eyes, this was just a foolhardy prey offering itself up. With a sweep of its massive wings, it unleashed an onslaught of dark green wind blades, swift and lethal. Here's where the Sharingan's ability to predict movements shone brightest. To Jiang Ping, the trajectory of those blades played out in slow motion. He sidestepped with precision, countering with a direct stab. But the Bat King, a fourth-tier monster, was no slouch. It twisted its enormous body in midair, narrowly dodging his strike. In that split second, Jiang Ping called out to Red Wind. She didn't need an explanation. Instinctively, she summoned a wind wall beneath his feet. Jiang Ping stomped down hard, propelling himself skyward. Using the momentum, he lunged onto the Bat King's back. What followed could only be described as chaotic, almost comical, even. The Bat King went into a full-blown frenzy, spinning wildly midair in an attempt to throw him off. No angle was overlooked in its agitated thrashing. Jiang Ping's short blade went flying. Left with no other choice, he locked his arms tightly around the beast's neck. Under Sage Mode, Jiang Ping's physical strength rivaled even the beast transformation types. He knew this, but so did the Bat King, and being ridden like this was an unbearable insult. As the grip around its neck tightened, the Bat King resorted to drastic measures. The Bloodwing Bat King was done playing. A fourth-tier beast now using raw brute force to deal with the team clinging to its back. It slammed itself into the cliffs, then plunged headfirst into the icy river below. The frigid water felt like thousands of piercing needles. Climbing sharply out of the river, the Bat King bolted straight toward a jagged reef. Jiang Ping endured every bone-jarring crash and piercing blow. The pain was excruciatingly real, with no respite, like a cruel punishment loop. Yet his Sage Mode allowed his injuries to heal almost instantly, keeping him alive but not sparing him the agony. By the time Red Wind reached him, Jiang Ping was still clinging to the Bat King as it barreled toward the reef. Without hesitation, Jiang Ping released his grip and leaped away. Red Wind caught him midair with a steady wind wall, holding him in a protective princess carry before making a beeline out of there. But the Bat King wasn't done. Having its young slaughtered, its sleep disturbed, and its dignity insulted, it wasn't letting this go. Now freed from Jiang Ping's weight, it moved even faster, chasing after them with murderous determination. The forest offered some brief respite. The dense canopy forced the massive Bat King to maneuver awkwardly, allowing Red Wind to gain some distance as she carried Jiang Ping deeper into the trees, hoping that the terrain would slow it down. But the Bat King quickly adapted its tactics. With a powerful flap of its wings, it created a gale so strong that it leveled a large section of the forest, snapping trees like toothpicks. As the destructive force approached, Jiang Ping reacted instinctively. Wrapping himself tightly around Red Wind, he rotated mid-air to shield her with his own body, taking the brunt of the impact. Both crashed to the ground with a heavy thud. Red Wind emerged unscathed, protected by Jiang Ping's quick thinking. But his back was an unrecognizable mess of torn flesh and blood. Panic gripped Red Wind as she hastily summoned water elemental healing energy into her hands, ready to mend his wounds. Before she could finish her thought, he grabbed her forcefully. "I'm fine." She suspected he was bluffing, right up until she saw the vicious wounds across his back. Then, to her astonishment, they began healing, right before her eyes. The flesh stitched itself back together in real time, thin wisps of white mist drifting away. Within moments, his back was fully restored, not a trace of injury left. Red Wind stood frozen in place, stunned. So this is what it meant to be an S-class wood-type auxiliary. It wasn't about healing others. It was his own body that could regenerate automatically. No matter how severe the injury, as long as he wasn't dead, he would stand back up. Only now did she grasp how he had managed to endure against the Bat Lord for so long. But there was no time to dwell on this revelation. The Bat Lord was closing in, and its sonic waves rippled outward, slamming into the trees around them. Every tree struck by the waves disintegrated into dust instantly. Running wasn't an option. It could fly faster than they could flee, and half the forest had already been demolished. At that moment, Jiang Ping's eyes began to change subtly. 3 tomo-shaped marks in his pupils rotated slowly before connecting, forming into the pattern of a 6-pointed star. The Mangekyo Sharingan, a 4th-tier beast. This wasn't an opponent he could take his time with. There was no reason to hold back. Would release, wooden spear. With his hands forming a seal, thick tree trunks in their vicinity transformed into countless sharp wooden spears, all shooting toward the Bat Lord in unison. The Bat Lord flapped its massive wings once, causing a violent gust of wind to form a weaving net. Every wooden spear was shredded into fragments mid-air, reduced to nothingness before they could land. The breath of gale. Jiang Ping's would-release attack had been completely neutralized. The Bat Lord's eerie, calculating gaze remained locked onto him. Red Wind made her move next. She manipulated her wind-type spiritual energy to form dozens of massive wind blades, sending them flying toward the beast in a ferocious assault. The sheer intensity of the attack left no room to doubt its power. But the bloodied Bat Lord didn't even bother using its abilities. Instead, it wrapped its vast wings around itself like an impregnable shield, letting the wind blades collide against them harmlessly. Its 4-tier beast physique withstood the attack effortlessly. When the Bat Lord unfolded its wings, it revealed a sinister, almost human-like grin on its bat-like face, chilling and twisted with disdain, as if mocking the futility of their efforts. In the instant it fixed its sights on Red Wind and prepared to strike, a kunai whizzed past the side of its face. Jiang Ping had already blinked into place directly in front of it, delivering a blow amplified by Sage Mode. His fist crushed into its face with full force, caving the Bat Lord's skull inward. The beast's body shot toward the ground like a cannonball, but mere inches before impact, its wings flapped unnaturally, dissipating its momentum. It hovered eerily above ground level, as relentless as ever. Then it changed its target. Skimming close to the ruined earth, it accelerated toward Red Wind, who was the closer target. Red Wind was caught off guard. She panicked and conjured spiritual wings to retreat backward, but the Bat Lord's speed was overwhelming. It closed the distance with ease. The barbed tips of its wing spurs locked together and thrust mercilessly toward her. Schlick! Red Wind instinctively squeezed her eyes shut. She braced for pain. She waited 1 second, and another. Nothing. When she opened her eyes, she saw Jiang Ping standing in front of her. Those two deadly spurs had pierced clean through his ribs on both sides. Damn, that hurts. The Bat Lord froze in place for a split second, clearly not expecting him to take the hit. But it only hesitated briefly. It quickly prepared to withdraw its wings, intending to finish off the nuisance before taking out Red Wind. But Jiang Ping took a deliberate step forward. The spurs sank deeper into his body, but that step also closed the gap between him and the beast entirely. He locked both hands onto the Bat Lord's head, wrenching its eyes wide open. Mangekyo Sharingan activated. Jinjutsu. The fourth-tier beast fought for less than 3 seconds before its struggle ceased. Its body went limp. Jiang Ping was gritting his teeth hard, clenching his jaw as he glanced down at the spikes still lodged in his ribs. With a disgusted grimace, he spoke in an incredulous tone. This much trouble from you? At this point, I don't even have a choice. I have to turn you into my summoned beast.